Let's get sweaty.
Hello and welcome to episode 5, believe it or not, of the Shenmue Dojo show with myself, James Brown, also known as Skull Jim, and of course, my favourite co-owner and co-host, Mr. E3 Press Pass, Matthew Oliver. How's everything going, man?
Yeah, not bad, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks, dude. Yeah, just looking forward to today's show, actually. Got a week off from work now, and I'm obviously dreading the editing process for this episode and the YouTube version, but, it's all good fun. It's going to be a good show, hopefully, today. Bit of a different one, interesting one. Talking about E3, what do you think of all the non-announcements so far this year?
Do you know, E3 is a weird year this year, I think. I mean, the pandemic has obviously had a real impact on games as a whole. I know your mainline sort of companies, publishers, etc. They've had their announcements and all the rest of it, but I do think it's been heavily hit. Getting press was amazing, actually. It's a shame E3's been a bit quiet this year, not just from a Shenmue perspective, but I think just in general. But sort of having access to things early was fantastic. Sort of going around the online booths, because obviously you can't. E3 is obviously online this year.
Yep.
So you go around the online booths, you watch videos, you can check out press releases, you can book in tests for games and interviews and stuff. And I mean, to be fair, I'd do it again next year. I mean, the ultimate dream, E3 means, I think, more to a certain generation of gamers than others, I think, because we remember the heyday. We remember sort of seeing Sega, Nintendo, Sony all battling it out at E3 for the press, for the coverage, etc. But if I ever get the chance and we get press again, I would love to go over there.
Yeah,
it'd be an awesome experience.
I mean, like you say, there's been some cracking E3 press conferences over the years, and obviously the 2015 one, I would have loved to have been in that audience at that time, like not knowing that Shenmue 3 is going to get announced and just, being that guy that stood up and put his hands on his head kind of thing in disbelief. So, yeah, I mean, obviously the dojos had press passes for certain things before. I know when, we were working under Peter's belt, he managed to get Gamescom passes. And obviously when we went to Magic Monaco, we got a press thing. So this was kind of like the first event really under our tenure that we've been able to sign up for in a way, even though it's not an actual live event. It was all digital this year. And I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are. I just think it's going to stay digital now because, like you say, there's a new type of gamer on the horizon really that's not really pleased with the way E3 is at the moment. It's crazy thinking back to like 2015 when that was the year of E3. Everyone was going crazy. That Sony conference, that was probably the greatest E3 in my opinion. I suppose it's a little bit different because we had live streams of it. If you went back, say, 10 years, 20 years ago, or whatever, when the Dreamcast was being shown off at E3, that might have been a different thing. Or I don't even know. I'm sure Shenmue must have been, the original Shenmue games must have been at an E3 conference, so that would have been crazy to see as well. But being able to actually watch the show, that was probably the highlight of my life really so far, that E3 press conference, and just the memories around that and the emotion that it gave us at the time. But like I was saying, I think this kind of new generation of gamer, especially since Sony kind of dropped out of E3, it's gone a little bit sour into E3. It's kind of like, there's a lot of headlines saying like, let's get rid of E3. What's the point of E3 these days? Everything's streaming, it's a lot of money to get involved.
It is, and it would be a shame to see it go, if I'm honest, because I think we have an emotional attachment to it. I mean, 2015, which ironically enough is 6 years ago today, as we record this, it was 6 years ago that press conference happened and we broke the internet. But I mean,
crazy
that you look at sort of the impact that press conference had, not just with Shenmue 3, but you had Last Guardian, you had the Final Fantasy 7 remake as well. And I don't know that impact. I mean, 2016 wasn't too bad actually as well, if I remember correctly. But sort of then onwards, with Sony dropping out, Nintendo sort of doing their own thing. I don't know. It just feels like the big guns sort of hold back a little bit at E3, whereas back in the day, they'd really go for it.
Do you think they can keep up to that standard though? Because, like you're saying, you got those 3 massive announcements. It was like the holy trinity of announcements for a game. I mean, not that I've got any affinity for Final Fantasy or Last Guardian. I picked up Last Guardian. I quite enjoyed it. I know you really liked it.
Yeah, loved it.
But, to other gamers, those were like incredible announcements. And the fact that they did it like one after the other almost, it was mind blowing because, and I think that was like one of the few E3s where there was no leaks. It was all like kept under wraps. Everyone was reacting to it in that exact moment. Like no one really knew. I mean, we had the little inkling from Yu Suzuki that something could be happening, but no one actually knew no one was expecting that. And I think since then, I think because of the dawn of like Twitter and social media and stuff, and these so-called journalists and people that might have a little bit more insight and the leaking stuff and left, right, and centre, it's kind of spoiling the actual event when you get to it because we already kind of know what the big guns are actually going to do when they do it, and then the rest of the stuff that we don't know about is a little bit more underwhelming because of that. Or
I'd say that's part of it. I also think that there's expectations now that I think some people are they're sky high, and that feeds into some of the narrative going around E3. I mean, I take one of the polarizing conferences was oddly the Xbox one, which I watched. I didn't watch it live. I caught up on it, and I'm not a massive Xbox gamer, hands up straight away. But I have PC Gamer Pass and I do use it, and I liked it. It was good, but literally it was on social media best conference ever, or complete utter garbage. And I'm sort of sat there going, and I don't mean this to sound rude, but compare it to not just 2015, but other press conferences in years gone by. I'm sort of sat there going, it was good. Like you give it a sort of a solid 7 out of 10 for what Microsoft were doing with it. And I'm not going to into all the nitty gritty around release dates and all that rubbish because I don't care. I don't care if console wars, play games and enjoy them. But I just thought, I don't. That's a low bar for me. If someone's saying, and that's my personal opinion, don't want to disparage anybody's opinion, but for me, it's a low bar. But then I'm also biased because I experienced the absolute high of 2015 for Shenmue 3 and Last Guardian. So
yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I was a big Xbox guy. I went from the Dreamcast to the original Xbox, and that was my console of choice. I didn't touch a PlayStation console. I went straight into Xbox 360, and I was really on the Xbox train, really. And then I gave PS3 a chance for the first time when The Last of Us came out. And, I kind of got into it, but it was only really the PS4 is when I started to switch over my focus from Xbox to PS4 because I just felt like Xbox One had nothing I was interested in, whereas, Sony exclusives and all the PlayStation ecostructure, I could play the same games on the PS4 and more. So it was like Sony really won a lot of the gamers over there, and I think that shows in the figures and stuff. And Xbox is trying to slowly crawl the way back with Game Pass, like you say, and stuff like that. But that conference, okay, I'm not the biggest Xbox fan myself anymore. I am siding with Sony and PlayStation, which is as a Sega fan from the Dreamcast days is like a
blasphemy.
Yeah, but. Yeah, there's just nothing at all interests me. Not even one game, I don't think, that can remember from that whole show. I think even like last year was probably better for Xbox because I felt like last year it was boom, boom, boom. It was game, and they kind of understood a little bit more last year what gamer wanted to see gameplay and stuff. Whereas we were discussing a little bit in the staff chat, like Peter was saying, like this conference it's all pre-generated stuff. It's there's no they weren't actually showing any gameplay really until maybe Forza Horizon was 5 or whatever was the first little bit of gameplay, but up until then it was all what we used to call CG trailers.
Yeah, and I don't know what the thinking is behind that. There's obviously a strategy behind it. I mean, Forza looks really good. I play Forza and it's really, really good, and it's always one of the better racing games out there as a whole. But I don't know.
It's a strange one to call. I don't know either. I don't know if it's just because we're getting older and more cynical, and nothing really impresses us anymore, or I just feel like there's a lack of innovation.
Yeah,
Sega back in the day, you can name loads of innovative, fun games arcade. There's no real arcade fun anymore. It's kind of like why I kind of quite liked PSVR,
Yeah.
just because it was kind of like a different style to gaming again. It was trying to bring these short experience, almost arcade style games with the light gun games that I'm quite a big fan of.
Mm.
And that's kind of catered a little bit more to my tastes. But like I say, there's just massive epic games these days, or multiplayer shooters, or these battle arena, whatever they're called, Fortnite, those type of games that are kind of the mainstream. And I don't know. I think I am probably just getting a bit too old.
I think your point of innovation is a valid one. I mean, with innovation comes risk these days, and I think you get a lot of innovation in the indie scene in terms of concepts, in terms of game style, in terms of art styles, and all the rest of it. And I think that's where the innovation will come more and more. Someone will take a risk on a particular concept, and it might boom and take off. I just wish some of these sort of bigger companies would, especially the ones that have had some real sort of massive hits, just take a risk on one. I know it's not good for the balance sheet. I know it's not good for the accounts and the number crunchers, but they've got all this technology, all this money, all this resourcing. Gaming it used to be pushed forward year after year after year, and graphically it still is. But I just think from a game perspective, it's very similar, and I just hope we see a bit more breadth of genre of style of game. But as for E3, yeah, I'd judge it next year actually as to what happens. I think if the big guns sort of actually attend in person and it starts taking off again, then who knows? But I think coupled with expectations, the pandemic and everything else, it was a bit of an underwhelming E3. But I'd happily do press again all day, all day.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously the COVID situation's not out this year. I think that's probably one of the reasons why such a poor showing for a lot of these companies. It comes to a point where some remasters of games and stuff are more exciting than some of these newer games to me. Like just in the Nintendo conference earlier, just a remaster of Fatal Frame 5. That's the kind of thing that excited me a little bit. And the new Super Monkey Ball game that's coming out, that's just been announced, supposed to compile the original, the second, and deluxe, I think. Which, are you a big Super Monkey Ball fan? Wasn't deluxe already a remaster of the first game? I
Possibly,
can't
I
remember.
can't remember. My Super Monkey Ball knowledge is slim at best. I have played it,
Mm.
and I will pick it up because do you know what? If you want these sort of older franchises to be revived, you need to get behind them.
Yeah, I think that's what we're hoping for, isn't it? I think if you pick up a Super Monkey Ball, even if it's a remaster, if it does successfully, like better than they thought, we could see an actual brand new release in that particular series, and that could work with other franchises. We had pre-access to Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate
We
Showdown,
did.
and I highly recommend people go out and pick that game up if you're a fan of the Virtua Fighter series from back in the day, the Sega Saturn, or perhaps maybe you did play Virtua Fighter 5 10 years ago whenever it was released. This is like a fresh coat of paint. It's really fun actually playing people online and trying to get good at the game. I'm not very good at it, but the more I played of it, the better I was getting. And I was just having a blast on it, actually. I know we streamed it
We did.
a couple of weeks ago when it first came out.
Yeah, and it was nice to sort of be involved in it from a obviously from a Shenmue standpoint because it's Virtua Fighter leads into Shenmue in terms of its inspirations and everything else. So that was nice, and Sega sort of getting on board with it and really giving it a real push. That's the thing. I mean, they've been quite open in saying they're quite pleasantly surprised at how many people are picking it up because it's been on PlayStation Plus, and we talked about this on KC's show actually on SEGA Lounge. So fingers crossed that they sort of take more chances on these older sorts of IPs and give them a push because there's some good stuff out there.
Yeah, 100%, man. And support this because, like you say, it's got links to Shenmue and its origins. And I'd love to see Virtua Fighter 6. And I think this is probably one of the ways of getting a Virtua Fighter 6.
Definitely.
And like you say, it was refreshing to see them actually state they're impressed by the amount of people playing it. And I know that's always going to be the case in a way because it's free on PS Plus. But technically, they've got a choice of downloading a free game. Even a free game these days is like a step too much for someone clicking download. So it's nice to see actually people picking it up and playing it. So, and a good segue there. Actually, I will mention the Sega Lounge has definitely worth a subscription if you're into podcasts like the Shenmue Dojo show. I mean, Casey, he's been going for ages now, years. I think he had was it a 7-year
Yeah, it
anniversary
was
the other week?
7 years.
That we seem to be involved in the show every week. Really, we've been in that first episode with the Winterfest thing. That's when we kicked off. Actually, no, a show before that. Actually, we did an interview with the Shenmue Dojo kind of thing, and then we did the Winterfest show for them, and then you featured on the Alex Kidd thing. We
Yeah.
both featured on
We did the quiz.
Sega 30 thing. Yeah, we done that 7th anniversary quiz, and then the Virtua Fighter episode recently. All great, subscribe to the thing. You can, if you like me and Matt, you can basically go and download 6 episodes there and have a bit more content from us as well at the same time. But I will mention his latest episode is with Eric Calso, and I actually listened to it in full last night, and it's a really, really good chat between Casey and Eric. So if you're fond of Eric Calso, and obviously he voiced Fukusan, Guizhang, Ren, go give that episode a listen. Yeah, it's a really good chat with Eric Calso. We're going to move into news. We've not really got too much to go through, so I think we should just blast through these. I mean, that kind of was a little bit of news on E3 there, news on Virtua Fighter 5 and Eric Calso, but these are the actual headlines I've got written down. So if you haven't been, I guess, on Twitter, if you haven't been keeping an eye open, there is a new piece of Shenmue merchandise, official from Sega, believe it or not, and it's the Sega Shop Tubs Ryo Hazuki Duck, which we coined the phrase of Ryo Kwaksuki.
Yeah, you coined that one pretty quickly, to be fair.
Pretty good, yeah. I think it was Chibi that came up with this, actually. Mine was like Duck Hazuki or something stupid. But yeah, so that's available to buy right now. You can still pick it up. It's a pre-order, I think. I don't actually know when it's coming out. Do we know when it's coming out?
I'm told early July, and the only reason I know that is because Sega Shop have kindly given us one to give away. So there will be a competition at some point for us to give one away. So keep an eye out for that as well.
Perfect. But if you can't wait for a competition and you want to buy one yourself, they're available on 3 websites. You can, obviously, if you're in the UK, segashop.co.uk. If you're in one of the EU countries, you've got Sega Shop EU, which should ship to you. And international USA listeners, you can actually get it on us.justgeek.com. So I think that must be an American website that's it's got some of these products in there. I think actually it's what's the company that makes a lot of the Sega Shop merch?
Numskull make them.
Numskull, yeah.
They're probably tied to them in some respect, aren't they? There's a bunch of their gear on that website.
Yeah, see, I see a lot of people, like, whenever Sega Shop do a tweet or something announcing a new line of Sonic clothes or, Sega Saturn jacket, something, you get people saying, like, oh, why isn't this on the US site? But maybe it's on this us.justgeek.com. So, if you're, from the USA and you want to pick up this duck, maybe some other the Sega Shop UK items, check out us.justgeek.com. And we did notice that there's a 1 on the packaging, like a number 1 on the Ryo Hazuki duck. So then that could make you believe that, it's a potential series.
I'd love it if it was.
Yeah, so I'll propose this to the listeners. What sort of characters you want to see turned into ducks, basically. I think obviously Landee's a given. Shenmue, probably Ren.
Yeah, they'd be the 4, wouldn't they? Sort of the mainline characters.
Mainline characters, you think they're in Sega's heads anyway, or like I say, with it being Sega UK working on this sort of stuff, possibly Tom. You could see a Tom duck because of what they did with the Sega Heroes mobile
of course. App. Yeah, that's quite possible. He'd make quite a good one, actually, Tom.
Yeah, little dreadlocks coming off the duck. His little white shirt on. Not a bad shout. Okay, so since recording this podcast from the other day, we're just going to slip this in here because this is it's really fresh news, hot off the press, as it were, and we don't want to put this podcast out while we're still editing it and miss this. So just announced is a new Shenmue music box from Wayo Records, who is like a French record music website. They sell vinyls, amongst other things, and They're selling a range of music boxes. They've got ones already for Skies of Arcadia. I'm looking here, Chrono Cross, Grandia, and the latest one in their series, number 6, is Shenmue. This is a very unusual item for a Shenmue collector, and it looks beautiful. Really, I'll just read some of the information out they've got on the website here. So here is the Shenmue official music box. This precious artifact will revive the timeless memories of the legendary game and is delivered with a limited music score, hand-signed by composer Ryuji Yuchi. So even that's an extra little bonus as well. It's pretty cool when we tell you the price, if it justifies it for you in a moment. But so it says, as part of our Wayo music box collection, here is the official music box from Shenmue. This unique artifact carefully designed to reproduce the Phoenix Mirror. So it's kind of got the Phoenix Mirror decal on the top of this box. And it plays the theme of Shenmue and offers a precious and timeless moment of nostalgia to revive moments from the legendary Dreamcast game. It's especially arranged by composer Ryuji Yuchi. So he's actually gone out of his way to recompose this music box melody. And it says, this luxurious music box is delivered with a limited music score hand-signed by the composer himself. It's a true relic from the Shenmue universe and a must-have for all fans. The music box is supervised and officially licensed by SEGA, so it's an unusual, officially licensed SEGA product. It says the music boxes are exceptional items, crafted with the best materials and entirely autonomous, powered by their own winder key and trigger. They are of the highest quality and serve both musical and decorative functions. Their design is the result of months of development, from the distinctive music box arrangement to the careful selection of materials in order to create a product that exceeds the standards made especially for passionate collectors. So it's a melody composed and arranged by composer Ryuji Yuchi. It's a collector's edition, limited to 250 units, including the hand-signed score by Ryuji Yuchi. It performs the melody from Shenmue's theme, which is 30 seconds long and loops 10 rounds, entirely automatic without a handle. Measurement-wise, it's 220 millimeters wide, 120 meters, it must be millimeters. 120 millimeters deep. That's going to be bloody huge, Charles. 55 millimeters high. The wooden box is crafted in noble materials, whatever that means. Precision mechanism made of a rotary cylinder and 30 pins, shipped in a quality padded package with Shenmue's designed logo, so that'd be interesting to see what the packaging looks like. It's licensed by SEGA and produced, published and distributed by Wayo Records. And if you want to talk about the price, there's a little bit of funkiness going on with the price, man.
Yeah, there is. I mean, it's a lovely product, that's first and foremost, and there's a YouTube video just under the description, actually, if you want to hear what it sounds like, which sold me on it. Now, the pricing's weird, quite frankly. If you go onto the main website, and this is all sort of dependent on where you're based. So James and I are UK based. So you go on the main website, wayorecords.com, and you can search Shenmue and it comes up. And it comes up as €274.80. We think, which is quite expensive. Let's be honest, this is one of these sort of premium items, which is why they're limited. And clearly we're all suckers because me and James have both bought one. But hey-ho, Sega have got our number a little bit here.
Anything Shenmue.
Yeah, take that out of it for a second. Now, when you go through the checkout process, it'll ask for your address, sign-in details, and the rest of it. And what it does is it will change the price depending on where you are. So in the UK, it drops down. So you pay around €260 all in with the shipping, but you may get stung for import tax. And it's probably a similar situation if you're in the United States, other parts of Europe, or wherever you are, that the price will either go up or down depending on where you are and depending on the shipping. So just be aware of that when you're going to pay for it, that there may be import charges coming on the back of this for all we know, and the price may increase or decrease depending on the tax laws in your relative country. But that said, it is a very, very nice item. It's due to come out towards the autumn, I think is what they're saying on the website, all being well. So I'd be very interested to see what it looks like, especially with the packaging. That's going to be interesting. That was a Shenmue branded packaging, what they're going to do with that.
Yeah, totally. And just another little thing about the pricing there. So if it's still showing as, like, at the moment it's showing as €313.20 when I go to checkout, and it's only when you press the please choose your payment method and you go as though you're going to enter your payment details that it updates to 261. So just give that a go. If it's looking like it's really expensive, just go as though you were going to go pay for it, and hopefully it'll adjust the price. But like Matt says there, tax wise, we're not too sure what's going to happen for the UK. Really, maybe they don't, which is why the price is so unusual at the moment, with the Brexit situation and import fees and stuff. Because I remember when I bought mine, it said total shipping, tax included, was well, actually, did it say? I wanted to say tax was. It said it was zero tax.
It said zero tax on it, and then it gave, I think it was like a €36 charge to ship it via DHL. So I would assume that we will get charged VAT when it comes into the country.
Right. Okay. Hopefully we don't. But like we said there, just be mindful that you may have to pay an additional, possibly €60 if they're trying to anticipate the charges in their price, if that makes sense. Because now I'm actually signed in and I've got it in my cart. If you go back to the page where you go to add it to your cart, it's coming up as €229. So just have a little play around if it's looking more expensive than it originally touted it as, because I feel like when it first was announced and I went on the site, it came up as 229, because I don't ever remember it being a thing where it was high and then went low, but for some reason it now is showing low. So just be careful and just see what happens when you go to check out there.
Yeah, and I'd also put tweet Wayo Records on Twitter. They're quite responsive actually. So if you've got any questions around any of the import or sort of payment processes or anything like that, give them a message. They're quite good at coming back. I've seen some fans already sort of speaking to them on Twitter, so it's worth a go.
Yeah, and one final thing, obviously it says it's limited to 250 units. I'm not sure if that means in total, or there's additional ones that just don't come with the hand-signed score. It says collector's edition limited to 250 units, so whether there's like a non-collector's edition when these are sold out remains to be seen. But if this is something that does pique your interest, takes your fancy, Shenmue stuff does tend to sell out. I'm not sure, maybe because of the high price point on this, it's going to take longer to sell out, so you might have a bit more time. But just be mindful that this is something you really want to get. Don't wait around, kind of thing, especially if you want the hand-signed score as well. But yeah, great to see more Shenmue merch. When we recorded the podcast the other day, we only had the duck to talk about, so yeah, this is why we've kind of done a bit of a pickup and added this in here. So if this sounds a little bit unusual, maybe different sound quality or something, that's why. But anyway, get back to the remaining news in a moment. Okay, moving on then. So you can talk a little bit about this if you want, Matt. So Shenmue Dragon and Phoenix Devlog 3 animations.
Yeah, so for those of you who have been following the Dragon and Phoenix project, the lead of the project, Lemon Hayes, pumped out a devlog a few weeks back talking about how Shenmue's animations are actually put together. And it talks about the initial research, it talks about the implementation, the differences in animation types, foot planting, fighting, and everything else in between. And it's really informative. I think what Lemon's done here is put together a really good guide of how this all works, but in layman's terms that anybody can understand it, anybody can follow it, and that's the real skill in itself. Actually, that you can just pick it up,
I
read
appreciated
it.
that actually, that language.
Yeah, because I can tell you what, if you start throwing technical language at me, you just get a blank stare. So I was really, really pleased to see it was done in an accessible way for everybody. And there's a little teaser at the end of the project, which is fantastic. And that project seems to be moving on quite nicely. I'm desperate for a proper trailer / teaser, but I know Lemon's keeping things very close to his chest, and fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a couple of little things he's given us over the past few months. It just makes me more excited for what's to come.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely a project to keep an eye on. And they've got a Twitter account actually, if you want to keep up to date with some of these devlogs and stuff. I mean, you can find them on the Shenmue Dojo. We'll post about them. We'll make a news topic in the future, and there's also a dedicated forum on the forums. But he has got a Twitter account, if you can remember what it is.
I think it's at Shenmue C.
Yeah, that sounds about right. What's the C stand for?
I have absolutely no idea.
We should ask him, really.
Brilliant.
So next up, moving on, there's been another update, actually. I think the last time we did an episode, we had an update, but I think that was just because, obviously, we do these podcasts 6 months apart, spread apart. So by the time we did the last episode, episode 4, I think the previous update had been out a few weeks. So, I mean, already feels, like we're getting a couple of good updates out fairly quickly. So there's a new Suka Pass update, if I didn't mention that. So this is the Nozomi's Messages update, which is basically as faithful as we could possibly be with, the source material that's out there of the actual Nozomi's Messages that you had on the Dreamcast Passport. So I know we had, if you've a fan of Suka Pass and you've downloaded some of the previous versions, there was a little Nozomi character bottom right of the screen, which you tapped, and we did call that Nozomi's Messages for quite a while. And that is where we had the current patch notes and details on the current update that you downloaded. It's kind of like a nice little message from Nozomi. That's what we were coining it. But now we've actually gone back and restored the actual Nozomi Messages, which, if you're not aware, basically, as you're playing through Shenmue, say if you got stuck, I know Shenmue kind of holds your hand a bit, so I think it would be hard to get stuck, personally. Maybe on my first playthrough, maybe I got stuck. Thinking back, I might have got stuck in the basement. Not the basement, but I mean the dojo, with the figuring out the key and the under the scrolls. I feel like I might have got stuck there when I was a kid. So say if you did get stuck there and you went onto the passport disc, loaded it up, loaded your save, you're stuck, you don't know what to do, you go into the Nozomi Messages section and she'll give you like a helpful hint to kind of push in the right direction. So what this update actually does, it restores all of the original clues that she had for you. That there's like a list of Rio's goals actually that for Shenmue details your point of the game, and that's what your save file kind of had and what was read into the passport disc. So say if you were looking for sailors, that is a goal that Rio has. He's looking for sailors. That was read back into the passport disc as where you are in the game. And we've added a list of these goals that you can click on, the relevant clues that go with those goals. So, I mean, it's just interesting information. She's also got a list of extra information about NPCs, shops, locations in the world of Shenmue that are also interesting to read up on. That's the information side of things. So there's like 2 options in the Nozomi Messages section, information and clue. I just think if you know all there is to about Shenmue anyway, which I think we all do by now, it's just extra little information there that's really interesting to kind of see what they had efficiently and originally back in those days on the passport disc. So if you are interested in this, we've got a few more extra pieces of music as well that we've added, and actually we've rebuilt the urgent messages section as well. I don't know if you're familiar with the passport, Matt, but we tried to recreate it as best as we can anyway.
Yeah, I've had a look at the update and I've delved into the passport and it's bloody brilliant. But then it's just maintaining the same standard of Suka Pass as it's top shelf, top drawer. Get it if you haven't got it already.
Yeah, and you can get it right now if you've got an Android phone, Google Play, just search for Suka Pass. iOS users, if you go onto sukapass.com, click the download tab, and there's quite a good explanation actually doing it through Test Flight, Apple's own Test Flight application there, just a way of downloading the app because we can't get it on the App Store, unfortunately, so that's just a way of doing it. It's very easy, and if that floats your boat a little bit, go check it out. Next up, news article-wise, another one of our own podcast episodes. It's your Shenmue Dojo interview series, man, with Ezra Krabbe.
Yeah, it's a little while since I did this one, but if you haven't picked it up already, I talked to Ezra about his sort of early days finding Shenmue, his travels that were inspired by Shenmue, and actually Shenmue's basically his life. It's inspired his life to the point where he's been to China, he became a martial arts teacher, and has now settled in Japan. So if you haven't listened to it already, get yourself across to that interview because Ezra's fantastic to interview, and he's got some really good stories about his travels across China and his views on sort of Shenmue 3 and potentially Shenmue 4 as well. So go and get yourselves a listen to it. And I've got a couple more interviews in the pipeline, but I won't say too much just yet.
Exciting, man. Exciting stuff. Yeah, that Ezra one, that was possibly my favourite one actually so far that you've done. It's just a nice chat with an actual Shenmue fan. I know he works at IGN, and he's met up with Yu Suzuki quite a lot and involved in his own little projects and stuff. And but as being a massive Shenmue fan, just listening to him, he's a really passionate Shenmue fan. I just it was a great lesson, man. And talking about China, some of the stuff he's done, becoming a martial arts teacher, even he's followed in Ryo's footsteps a little bit, and it's fascinating to see that side of things from an actual Shenmue fan. That was a really great interview, that one.
Lovely, thank you, man.
Right, so we're just going to knock out the last couple of news things we've got. These are kind of Shenmue Dojo website related. The first one, if you haven't noticed, if you've not been on the dojo for a while, at the top now on the main site, we've got kind of like a translation bar. There's like a row of countries that you can just click between, and it'll just change the language of the page you're on the dojo into that language. So obviously we've got Chinese, Dutch, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Portuguese, Russian, and Spanish, and obviously English, which is the default, obviously, that you can read all the pages on the dojo. Say if there's a news piece that's just come out, we've made a post on, click on the news piece, and those languages will stay at the top of the page. You can click, and it'll translate it into your own little language there. So, I mean, if you are listening to the podcast, I guess you can understand English, but, well, especially our dodgy English accents. But if you would prefer to read the site in a different language, maybe your original language is one of these languages we've mentioned, or you've got a friend that previously hasn't been able to access the whole of the website, now you can, and you can read it in your own native language, which is just a small feature, but I think it just adds to the website a little bit. And the other little piece of news in regards to the Dojo website is that we've now added the entire first issue of our own fan magazine, Shenmue World. So you can access it via the Shenmue World tab at the top right of the main site page, and it'll actually bring up the issue cover. So in the future, when we've got more issues out, you'll be able to click which issue you want to read, and then that'll load into a page with details about the particular issue that you've chosen. And there's also a big image right at the top of the page that when you hover over it, it flips and it'll say view. So if you click that, it'll take you to an interactive version. So you can click and drag the pages, zoom in, pretend you're reading an actual magazine. So if you did miss out on the Kickstarter or the physical edition, and I did give out a PDF reward as well to the backers. It's like a high quality PDF, but this is a public free version. It's exactly the same content. It's just it's quite a nice way of reading it, actually, like an interactive thing. You can scroll the mouse wheel and zoom in wherever your cursor is, and you can view all 166 pages of issue 1. So enjoy. And the final piece of news related to the dojo is that we've acquired the website specifically for teamu.net and Shenmue500k.net. So obviously Shenmue 500k, it's a thriving community over on Facebook. They've got their own sort of community there and daily posts and stuff, and it's actually a great place to actually go and...
Yeah, it's a sort of thriving Facebook community that posts regular posts every day. There's various different questions, and new people find the series go over there. So the fact it's been running for so long, and the Facebook group remains sort of active. I'm quite active over there, actually.
Yeah.
So you might see my name pop up from now and again. But if you do go and say hello.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like another way of talking about Shenmue. You've got the forums. If you're interested in talking Shenmue, you can go over to the Shenmue Dojo forums. But this is just an extra way of interacting with fans, and it's been a thriving community for years now. Really, the 500k has. So literally, all we've done, we were offered these sites a few months back. So the actual tmu.net website, which we're gonna is kind of the topic of discussion today. We're going to go into that a little bit more for this particular episode, and the Shenmue500k.net website. So just the websites, literally, they were both due for renewal, and we were contacted saying that they're not going to get renewed. Would we be interested in hosting them on our servers and keeping them alive, kind of, so that they don't fall into only being able to view them on the Wayback Machine? That's what we do. We like to preserve Shenmue content, and some of these are integral to Shenmue 3 getting announced, basically. Temu with the Thunderclap tweets that they did, where you could attach your Twitter account to teamu.net, and it would post on the 3rd of every month, because obviously when we were shouting for Shenmue 3, it was the 3rd of every month. It's the 4th now for Shenmue 4. But yeah, back in the day, Teamu with the Thunderclap thing, I think that was pretty much an integral piece of the puzzle in getting Shenmue 3 back. Same with the 500k group. So I think it's great that the dojo now owns these websites, and as long as we're in charge, man, I think we're going to keep them both alive for all eternity, really.
Well, yeah, exactly. They're both pieces of Shenmue history. I mean, it just feeds into our sort of philosophy of preservation. You look at the old forums are still there for everybody to read if they wanted to, and this is just another example of that. At the end of the day, and as you say, as long as we're owning the place and running the joint, then they will stay under our umbrella so that everybody can see the history,
as it should be. So obviously the topic of conversation for this podcast is that the teamu.net website, it's got an insane timeline that I believe James Hamill created for the Teamu campaign. Yeah. So as part of this website, and obviously the whole community push to see a third game, there was this rather extensive timeline written. And, it's a fantastic history companion detailing major events from all the way from June 1998 all the way to April 2018. And it's this timeline that's going to be the basis of today's episode as we go through each of the entries on this particular timeline and reminisce about this period of time. So I'm looking forward to getting, some of the memories going again from back in the day. And I do want to say that if you, the listener, if you've got any particular fond memories yourself of any part of this timeline, we'd love to hear it. If you're watching the YouTube version of this episode with the extra image and video footage with context, just reply in the comments below with your memories. If you're a podcast audio listener listening to this right now, please drop us a message over on Twitter. We'd love to read them all. We really, really would. It's just great seeing what everyone's experiences in history with the Shenmue series throughout these years. But before we get into that, we're going to have a short break now. We're going to play the latest track from the Kitchen Brothers. It's literally just released actually the other day on Joe Kitchen's YouTube channel. It's another absolutely incredible video and song. It's called Shinbao Theme, whose character in Shenmue 2 is actually a greengrocer. He's also the owner of Long Year's Greengrocers that's found in the Green Market Quarter of Yanchai. So obviously we all know that Shenmue 1's characters off by art now, with their detailed character bios that were found on the Shenmue Passport, now accessible on SEGA Pass, of course, but Shenmue 2's NPCs are a little bit lesser known, so it's great to see a character like this being highlighted, actually. So check out the video. There'll be a link in the description somewhere of this particular episode, show notes, whatever you like to call them, or on YouTube, of course. But here is the track, Shinbao's Theme. Welcome back. That was Shinbao theme from Shenmue 2 from the Kitchen Brothers. Really sounds like something straight from the games. It's great work again. We're really spoilt for fan music lately, actually, man.
We are massively. I mean, you think of the Kitchen Brothers, you think of Rio X, you think of Richard Cartlidge. Are just three that sort of slip off the tongue quite easily. And actually, about a year ago, in fact, I think Corey did a Zoom call with loads of other Shenmue-inspired musicians. So there's loads out there if you've got the time to scoot around.
Yeah, totally. And Richard Cartlidge in particular, he's been pumping out a few more tracks recently, which are going to play later in the show. And like you mentioned, Rio X, Shenmue music's incredible. He's actually got a latest, it's kind of like a Shenmue-inspired EP called Shire, which is totally worth checking out too. So, man, let's try and tackle this TeamU.net timeline. See if we can provoke some memories and perhaps, certainly more youthful time in our lives anyway.
Yeah, I had hair.
I had more hair.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so we're looking at the TeamU.net campaign timeline in front of us if you wanted to get this up yourself for context. So we're going to have a quick run through all of these individual points from the timeline over the years. I think it'll be a good memory-inducing situation because, like I say, it goes all the way back from 1998. So it's just going to be interesting to read through this, actually. I haven't actually read through the whole thing for a while. So immediately on the webpage, you can see it's a campaign timeline. It's Shenmue's Road to Revival. It's been a long one, so let's retrace our steps as best we can. And we got a little comment from Jason Schreier. Would you say?
Shreya, I think.
Okay. He is a Kotaku news editor, and this is a quote from himself from July 2015. So it's only because of those crazy Shenmue fans, the ones with weird Twitter handles and incessant pestering messages, that a third game is happening. If Shenmue fans weren't so outspoken, constantly bugging Sony's Adam Boys on Twitter and reminding Yu Suzuki that yes, there are people still waiting to see the end of Ryo Hazuki's story, there's no way any of this would have actually occurred. Shenmue would have just been another casualty of the Japanese game industry. Which, again, I'd agree with that. If it wasn't the campaign, this particular campaign, all the stuff the dojo was doing to push, and all the Shenmue fans around the world, of course, I don't think we would have ever seen a third game. I think because it had been so long, but the fan base had always been there. It was, I think it was famously the top of the Sony's list of demanded games or whatever.
Building the list, wasn't it?
Building the
Back
list,
in the day.
yeah. So I think without that, I don't think we would have seen a third game.
No, definitely
And
not.
now we're in such a great position. We've got the third game. We've got a fourth game, hopefully, coming. And we know for sure that we've definitely got an anime adaptation coming. So it's really exciting time to be a Shenmue fan amongst the other fan things that are going on. It always seems like it's stuff to keep us busy at least. So let's start with the very first entry on this timeline. I think like we did with the Kickstarter thing, if you want to, shall we do back and forth between
Yeah, let's go back and
each
forth.
of the points? Sounds good. So I'll take the first one. So June 1998. A Virtua Fighter RPG in secret development since 1994 by Yu Suzuki and Sega's AM2 division is confirmed to exist, now codenamed Project Berkeley. Development has shifted from the Saturn onto the Dreamcast, with the Virtua Fighter characters and connection officially dropped. So, let's have a little discussion about this. I mean, I don't want to get into too much because we've got an awful lot to get through, but Virtua Fighter RPG is in secret development since 1994. So, can you remember your first experience of seeing this sort of stuff? Were you already? I think I remember you saying that you'd already got like magazines. You'd seen screenshots of Shenmue. So that's if this is in 1994, it's been developed, worked on this secret project. I mean, personally, I'd probably be the same as you. I didn't know about Shenmue until it was being released for the Dreamcast. So we're talking 1998 at that point. So
before my time with it, I think. Like you,
because obviously that's the next thing. Actually, we're going to send the list, but obviously there was a disc that came with Virtua Fighter 3 with Project Berkeley, which is what this Virtua Fighter RPG was codenamed, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So if you recall the GDC 2014, Yu Suzuki was talking about this period of time. He was actually calling, was it the code name was something like the old man of the peach tree or something?
Yeah, it was a demo, wasn't it, back in the day?
So I wonder if that's what this is referring to. Virtua Fighter RPG Secret Development. Now codenamed Project Berkeley. So it was already codenamed Project Berkeley. So I mean, what the Peach thing must have been even before this time then.
It was I think it was a couple of years before this. I mean, I'd have to go and look into the history books a bit more about it. But this is sort of 1998 was the first real sort of detail on this project. I mean, sort of moving into November that year, the Project Berkeley preview came with the Japanese copies of Virtua Fighter 3, which revealed the actual name to be Shenmue, which I ironically didn't know until reading this just now. I'm a poor Shenmue Dojo owner, it seems.
So I'm guessing at the end of the trailer or something, it popped up with Shenmue, did it? I can't recall it myself, actually, thinking about it. It's codenamed Project Berkeley, and that was, like, we know to be the Project Berkeley disc.
I picked it up for, I think it was £8 off of Amazon with Virtua Fighter 3, so I can't complain.
I've just looked at the disc. Obviously, it's got the Phoenix mirror design on, or the Dragon mirror, one of the two. But it does actually say Project Berkeley on the disc, so it must be within the trailer that they actually revealed the game's name.
It must be. Yeah, it must be. I'd have to watch it again. It's on YouTube. It'll be on our page as well. I'll have to watch it again.
Did we got Virtua Fighter 3 TB at launch, but we never got an actual bonus disc, so that was Japanese only.
It was, yeah.
But I mean, they could have done, really, because Shenmue was still a year away. But I guess maybe they thought that, well, this is 1998, so when the Dreamcast launched in the UK, it was 2000, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
So
was it?
I think it was
1999, wasn't it?
That was in the US, so that was.
So ours was October that year.
Same year, right? Okay, so it did come out in 1999. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense then. So I think with it being a full year since then, they probably didn't want to bundle in that Project Berkeley disc again.
No, it wouldn't have made sense, and I do wonder how many people have bothered with it, because I think it was quite a big deal, certainly in Japanese circles. Shenmue and Virtua Fighter was as well, so I don't know if it have sort of got out there.
I think that was their original market, actually, wasn't it? Japanese players. I think they really heavily marketed it towards Japanese people, and then they kind of didn't know how to market it to the West.
I mean, it took off. I mean, and actually, it goes into the next point from December '98 that Japanese fans start interacting with the development team on the official Shenmue BBS, suggesting ideas that would go on to be implemented into the game. Now that's almost like social media now in that respect, that people, sort of feedback's going into it. So that's quite cool.
Yeah, that was kind of like a blog site, wasn't it? Where I think the official Shenmue, it was an official Shenmue website. I'm not sure if someone involved with the game made the posts and then people replied, or a fan made a post. I'm trying to think of like the forums where a fan makes a topic and then it causes a discussion. I'm not sure. It says interacting with the development team. I do recall one of the people involved, obviously from the development team, was Samu Murata. He's involved with the music compositions. If you've picked up those data discs, soundtracks, along with Ryuji Ichi, he's one of the other composers, Samu Murata. And I think it was him that was under a different name called something like Guppy. I feel I've got Guppy in my head.
Rings a bell. Rings a bell from somewhere.
Yeah, someone else might know that or not. And I think it was the guy, actually, that's, when you look at the passport models and in the eyes, the irises or whatever, is a reflection of a picture. I think that's what they used in the eyes on those models, character models. And if you actually look at what the texture is, it's a Japanese guy with a Donald Duck plushie. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I've seen.
I think that is the guy. I think it's a Samu Murata that's actually holding that Donald Duck thing. So he's one of the people that Japanese fans were interacting with back in the day, and he's still interacting with fans now. I just noticed on one of the most recent Richard Cartlidge videos, he's actually replied to Richard saying, because obviously Richard remakes some of the original Shenmue songs. He says, "Great track makeup. I'm embarrassed because he even reproduced my mistake with a perfect copy." So I didn't even know there was a mistake in that song. The song's "Memories of Distant Days," but obviously Osamu picked up on even in remaking this particular mistake from that song, which is quite funny to see. So moving on, June 1999. So what's that? That's like a full 6-month time jump. We've got a playable Watch Shenmue demo that was supplied free with new Dreamcast consoles in Japan. So that's interesting, actually. So the Dreamcast had already been out the tail end of 1998 in Japan. So this is kind of like it's been added to some of the newer models of the consoles. A Watch Shenmue demo, which we've all played, I hope, by now. And you can actually download a fan-translated version of that if you haven't already. If you want to experience that on DMUL or Null DC or something like that, or just on, say, if you've got one of those Dreamcasts that can play CDIs, maybe? What you might know more than this, Matt.
I think you need to,
or GDMU, that kind of thing.
It will definitely work on GDMU. I think if you can burn it on a CDI format or GDI format, but you obviously need the you might need code breakers to make it work. But I'm not an expert on these sorts of things.
Yeah, code breaker or action replay or something, or even to play like an import. If you watch Shenmue's ridiculously cheap, it's like I think you can pick it up for like between £4 and £15 really. If you don't own that disc, it's worth picking it up, and it's actually quite a fun demo. It's a little bit of Dobita, but Ryo chases the Sega president at the time.
He's hunting him down,
Mr. Yukawa. So yeah, it's a fun little demo. There's also the Famitsu version that was released with. I'm guessing it was bundled with the Famitsu magazine, or you sent off for it or something. Yeah,
must have been.
So that could have been around that same sort of time. Maybe for people that had already owned a Dreamcast, it was a way of getting the demo as well.
I'm fairly sure that it also, as a gesture of goodwill, they gave it to people who pre-ordered Shenmue.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
It was delayed.
Actually. Yeah.
So that there must have been at one point there must have been quite a few copies of it out there, which is probably why it's so cheap even now.
Yeah, there's loads of copies, but yeah, I don't really know what the deal was where you went to pick that up. You know what I mean?
Or I don't know.
Because obviously we don't really have. Back in those days, I think Amazon was a new kind of thing. So pre-ordering something online, and then they thought, well, just send it to the addresses. They must have had to go in person somewhere to pick these demos up. Possibly, I don't know.
Yeah, I would have thought they would have done. To be fair,
Interesting.
So we then leads on 6 months later. I'm going to group these ones together because they're all quite self-explanatory. Actually, December 1999. Obviously, Shenmue gets its delayed launch in Japan, and to critical acclaim as well, which is fantastic.
So it was originally meant to come out in June. Then
it was, which is why Watch Shenmue was given out, which is got people interested in the game, and it's a good gesture of goodwill actually as well. Then you move on to almost a full year, so 11 months on. November 2000, Shenmue launches in North America. Again, with full English translation, and if you haven't caught my interview with Mike Reinhardt, he was a lead beta tester for that project over at Sega in America at the time. So catch that one if you want to know a little bit around that.
Crazy that it took almost like a full year.
Yeah.
So literally when it released, they probably hadn't done any translation work at that point when it released in Japan. So that 11-month period was working on the translation and the voiceover.
Crazy.
Do you think?
It's crazy. And my understanding is they had done some translation work, but not a huge amount. So Corey had to do pickups and things like that based on the translations that the beta team at Sega America were sending over at the time. So it's...
And they were rushing, I know, because that's what Mike said. Last couple of weeks before, they were still working on the passport or something.
Yeah, they hadn't even got the passport online. They didn't even know about it. So
crazy.
That's crazy. Another footnote, actually, in November 2000, Ryo's Place launches, which later becomes Shenmue Dojo. And we, as I'm sure people saw, we celebrated 20 years last November.
Nuts.
So that's blooming crazy.
If you didn't know, yeah, that we started out as Rio's place from, Shenmue fan Andy Bandos,
Yeah, man.
who you actually did a nice little interview with,
Yeah, he did a
written
written
interview.
written interview with me, and he still drops in from time to time, which is nice to see.
Nice to see. Yeah.
And then, so the final bit of this little group is December 2000. Shenmue finally launches in Europe and the UK, and
Hmm.
that's obviously where we both got our
Yeah,
grubby
the rest
grubby
is
mitts on
history.
it, and the rest is history. Yeah. So yeah, it's all quite self-explanatory. Those bits. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a lot of fanfare towards Shenmue, especially in the UK. There was a lot of magazines covering it, reviewed really, really well, and
Mhm.
yeah, I just the hype train was in full swing, I think.
Yeah, totally. And the good thing in regards to that is, which we'll get to in a brief moment, but there wasn't too much time between Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2. Where obviously the Japanese fans had to wait like 3 years, really, didn't they? From if they picked up,
Yeah,
oh no, sorry, 2 years. Obviously, 1999 to 2001. Still a short amount of time, really,
yeah,
if you
it's
think
not
about
bad.
how long it is between sequels these days
Yeah,
for
it's
certain
pretty quick.
franchises. But then that is because they were worked on in tandem, I suppose. They'd already done the majority Shenmue 2 alongside the work that they'd done on Shenmue 1 as well, which, is interesting in itself, really. January 2001, Shenmue the movie is released in selected theatres in Japan, enabling audiences to catch up on the story of the first game through a collection of cutscene and gameplay footage ahead of the sequel's release later in that year. So that's I'm not actually sure how many theatres showed it, if it was like proper, Odeon level sort of viewings, or it was just more like a little bit of a fan meetup kind of thing.
I don't know, but I mean, I think the idea was a good one. I think it was a good
I've
idea.
got actually a booklet that was from that event. It's like how you go to the theatre and you get like
Yeah, yeah, like a
what are those things called, like a
program of what's going on. Yeah,
program, yeah, basically. They did some of these programs for people that attended the theatres, so that's a pretty interesting look at Shenmue the movie back then. Obviously, they just used cutscenes from the game to build this movie, but they did actually redo a lot of the sound effects and remastered, or at least had the original quality voiceover work before it was compressed. So it's worth a watch. It's not the greatest retelling of Shenmue, and there's still sections where it's like some player actually playing the game, which is it's a little bit a little bit odd. I don't think he was the best fighter in the battle moments. He does some cool moves, but I do remember he keeps using the same move as well.
yeah. Oh, I don't know.
Interesting.
Poster's really good actually for that one.
Poster's
I
cool,
like
yeah,
the poster.
yeah.
It's really really cool.
And later on, I don't know, is this still January?
Yeah, it's still
So,
January.
yeah, okay. So Sega announces that the Dreamcast is going to be discontinued from the end of March,
Man,
which, killed a lot of. I think I might have even cried when I read the announcement that Sega was sort of stopping console production and, ceasing Dreamcast, because it's weird, because as a kid, it still felt like the Dreamcast had been out for a while. You're talking March or January even of 2001, and the Dreamcast released at the end of 1999.
yeah, it's
It's a year and a half. It did feel like it had a decent run. I know console lifespans these days are like 5, 6, maybe even more. But for the Dreamcast, it was short lived, of course. But I think being a kid helped that it felt like it was around a little bit longer than maybe
yeah.
it did. It did actually. It was around for, rather.
It,
But yeah, that was a sad
it
time, wasn't it?
bloody stung, and it still stings now. Actually, I remember reading it in, I think it was in the Dreamcast magazine actually, and I just sat there for. I remember sitting there thinking, "Oh, great," because yeah, you got all the both of us are Sega nuts, aren't we? We grew up with
Yeah.
Sega, so I know for a line to be drawn under that was yeah, it's still a bit crap now.
It's a shame. I mean, I remember around the playground at high school, I used to try and I was basically selling Dreamcasts to people, like saying like, "Oh, these games are amazing." And everyone was really into PlayStation 2. They're saying like, "Oh, but this game's better than your games." And then I was saying like, "Well, Shenmue, look at this," kind of thing. And I think you even sold on Shenmue from school. You know, that
Yeah.
there's that kind of mentality. Like, you wanted Sega to do well, you wanted the Dreamcast to do well. It was probably like a ratio of. I mean, I don't know what it was like at your school, but I'd say there was only like three or four other people I knew actually that had a Dreamcast, and maybe I convinced two of them to get one.
I think there was three in my year group at school that I remember who had a Dreamcast, and it's ironic actually because it had one of the most successful launches of all time at the time. It launched really well in America and didn't do too badly in Europe, but I think just a series of mistakes.
Cracking price point.
Yeah,
Mm.
you couldn't argue for it from an accessibility standpoint. I just think they got shafted by bad decisions previously, leaking money.
Yeah.
I think the lack of a DVD player didn't help, and I also think Sony's marketing machine was in overdrive, and it just crushed it. Even though some of Sony's promises at the time weren't exactly great, weren't fulfilled potentially, and also their launch titles weren't particularly great. But hey ho,
It was the DVD drive on it. It's
yeah.
killed it because that was the new thing. That was the end thing at the time. DVDs killing VHSs, and everyone wanted movies on, and it's all built in one kind of thing. I know Sega tried to market DVD players with the Dreamcast, didn't really take off as well as having one piece of kit that included everything. And it is a shame. It is a shame that the Dreamcast wasn't successful. It was like the first console I was so excited picking up on launch. I was wetting myself at school. It was, I was that excited to go to game at the end of the day and go get my pre-order launch Dreamcast with like 5 games and VMU and controller. It was honestly the only console launch I've been like, when you were a kid and you can't sleep because of Christmas the next morning. It was that feeling, but for the Dreamcast, it was the first console I'd actually been that dying to get my hands on.
Damn good console. Damn good console. And I think it finally gets the respect that it deserves now, actually.
That's true.
So, yeah, on that disappointing note, I'm going to group these ones together because there's a little bit it sort of ties into one of the
So I mean,
bits.
that's interesting. So even though they announced the Dreamcast discontinued from the end of March, obviously it still received game launches
Yeah,
after
it
that.
did quite a lot. I mean, you had Crazy Taxi 2, you had some other, I think Daytona came out on it, and some various other titles. And I mean, September 2001 that year, Shenmue 2 launched in Japan. There we go. And then we got lucky in Europe that Shenmue 2 launched in Europe with Japanese voiceover but English subtitles, which was a bit of a culture shock, I must admit, at the time.
That was November.
Yeah, November that year, 2001. And then another sort of footnote here is that the fan site Shenmue Master launched in 2001. Bloody hell, that's 20 years old this year. Man.
Wonder if they know.
I hope they do something to mark it because it's a big
Yeah,
milestone. Big
it
milestone.
is a big milestone.
And then
We really did wonders with our 20th. I think it kind of came at the right sort of time. We'd just taken over and we wanted to get a few things done to kind of mark our, becoming dojo co-owners. I did the magazine, you did your interview series, and amongst loads of other stuff at the time. I think the 20th anniversary for the dojo was a good celebration, really, and I'd love to see Shenmue Master do a similar thing.
it deserves it. It deserves it. It really does. I mean, it's been a staple of the community for years. So I'd love to see them do something, and hope. I don't know what they've got working in the wings, and we'll just have to wait and see. Ironically, in November 2001, Shenmue 2 was cancelled in North America because they signed an exclusivity deal with Microsoft to bring it to Xbox a year later.
So, reading that then, can you cast your memory back? Was it actually planned? Were they saying like it was coming out for the Dreamcast in all 3 regions? Because if in November we got it, if in September Japan got it, it was November when it was cancelled, or
Yeah, I'm from this. It was. I mean, I'd have to go back into sort of some archives of media and have a look around and see whether it was or whether it's just before. But I do remember it happening. And speaking to Mike Reinhardt in my interview, he was saying that this was being discussed at Sega for months before they actually pulled the trigger on something like this. So I think I don't know if it was a last minute decision or not, but it certainly annoyed a lot of people. I mean, Peter Moore gets a lot of bad press for it. I mean, there's a quote here that he said he was told at airport security, "I don't need to see your passport. You're the asshole who gave Shenmue to Xbox." And you know what? He laughs about it now, to be fair, in interviews. But yeah, it was quite a controversial decision, and it resulted in, at the time, I don't know what's happened since then, but at the time, Shenmue 2 was the most imported game into North America because people wanted it on bloody Dreamcast.
Yeah. I mean, so his intentions there were he was, because I'm just reading that other quote. He says, "Any difficult choices that are made during this transition time are based on one bottom line, ensuring the longevity of beloved Sega franchises, included Shenmue." So he was thinking that by bringing it to the Xbox, holding it there, he was going to kind of secure the future of Shenmue in a way.
Yeah, I don't think it was done with any sort of malice to screw people over in America, and especially with Microsoft obviously being American, it made sense. But they launched it the following in October 2002. It launched in North America with a copy of the Shenmue movie included on the DVD, and I don't know, most of the people had bought it because it'd been imported. So I think sales suffered for massively for it. I also personally think that they probably should have redone the first game for it as well, and maybe
That would
sold
have
them
been nice.
together.
Yeah, kind of like what we got for the PS4
Yeah,
with the re-releases.
yeah, because I don't know. I just think that with the best of intentions towards it, I think they didn't gauge the level of demand for Shenmue on the Dreamcast, and
Hmm.
they didn't gauge or account for the fact that everybody was going to import it, and they did, and it certainly hurt the Xbox version.
I suppose the only thing with games at those sort of times where there wasn't a lot of like re-releases and those sort of things. So I mean, their easy cop out there was just bundling the movie on a disc. You know, they didn't
Mm.
have to do any extra work.
And I mean, Shenmue 2 on Xbox, both in North America and later on in Europe when it released. It had Corey Marshall back, and it's not to say it didn't have some positives to it. I just think it was on a bit of a hiding to nothing, but that's probably an episode in itself.
I mean, obviously, when I first picked up the PAL version for the Dreamcast, and you're faced with Japanese voices after you'd been listening to the English voice actors for so long, it was a bit of a hard to get into for myself. And I was looking for this, essentially looking through the settings, trying to like, why can't I change to English? I didn't know at the time that they hadn't actually done it for this because they're such a after the Dreamcast was done kind of thing. It was like a late kind of release. Last minute good deed, I suppose.
Yeah,
And the Xbox, I did appreciate having the English cast back. I'm one of the people that prefer the English cast. Bizarrely, I mean, I've not really given the Japanese cast too much of a go. It's just because that was why I started with the English voiceover. Corey Marshall, Eric Kelso, those sort of people. So I loved it on the Xbox, and obviously you got the snapshot feature, slight, graphical improvements as well, you could say.
yeah.
Although I wasn't too keen on the bloom effect and that blurry, the blurry thing.
Oh yeah, I
Too
know.
much blur.
Yeah, luckily they corrected that actually for the
Yeah,
re-releases
yeah.
in 2018. So it was one of those things. I can see why they did it. I understand why they did it. I just think it was probably a little bit misguided. Looking back, but hindsight's a wonderful thing in all due respect, isn't it? I'm going to group these little next ones together because I think to August 2005 when we get to it's a juicy one.
Okay.
So post 2002, you had sort of fans diving into the code, making fan games, music, all the rest of it, and showing videos of modifications they've made to the games. February 2003, Yu Suzuki was inducted into the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame at the DICE Summit. So just to sort of make a point to potentially new listeners or people who haven't come across Yu Suzuki before, this man was a pioneer in the games industry. So this is part of the reason he's so revered, certainly by developers in the industry for things like Virtua Fighter, Virtua Racing, and everything else. And that again is probably something we can talk about separately. March 2003 is the Xbox version of Shenmue 2 launched in Europe. I actually got a copy.
Yeah, me too.
We had an Xbox, so I got myself a copy. It was weird playing it on one disc actually, because you could obviously, having played it originally, you know where the disc breaks are, don't you?
Yeah. I still kind of refer to like sections of the original Shenmue and stuff by disc. If
I
someone
do,
says,
yeah.
when does this happen? You kind of think like, well, disc 2. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, I do. It's just it's an automatic thing,
Yeah,
isn't
and
it?
like the Guilin section, you always think of as disc 4, don't you? It's
Yeah. And then October 2003, I'm just looking at the timeline. It looks like this was the first Shenmue convention
okay.
organized ever. And it was in Japan by some fans. It had activities such as cosplay, quiz, and a darts tournament. So, yeah.
That's cool. I will say actually that obviously with this timeline, everything that we're mentioning here has got links to the actual source. So just that particular one there, Shenmue Convention, the word convention's a link, and if you open it, let's open it in a new tab. Oh, okay. As we're looking, the Wayback Machine says temporary offline, so that's going from a Wayback Machine
Mm.
link. But some of these other things like the fan games, music, and stuff that you mentioned in that previous, everything's got a link to it, which is another one of the reasons why I think you should go and have a look at this TeamU.net timeline if you haven't already, because not only is it like a memory lane thing, provoking memories, you can actually see all of the different things that are referenced here, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Really, it's well worth doing.
So we're going to take a little breather now. I'm going to play a piece of music from Richard Cartlidge. This song in particular is called Daily Agony. It's a remake of the classic from Shenmue 1's soundtrack. Enjoy. Okay, welcome back. That was Richard Cartlidge, Daily Agony from Shenmue 1. It's remade that to perfection. Really great version of the song there. So, August 2005. So, a report quoting anonymous sources excites and then ultimately disappoints fans with claims that Shenmue 3 has been close to completion for some time, awaiting the right deal to be struck.
And that was Kixio's
Oh, is that the
Adam
one? Is it?
Dory job. Yeah, it is. I just pulled it up on the.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, that was
Wow.
a doozy.
So I wonder what actual information he had, because obviously he's a trusted character. It's not didn't seem like he was just making it up like some of these recent E3 leaks we've had recently from like someone just trying to cause a bit of a bloody fuss over nothing. But this actually seemed like it had a bit of merit because of the guy that was actually announcing this kind of claim. Really,
Yeah, and I'm looking at the forum posts as we're talking about this, and I mean, Land DC posted it originally, and Adam Dory's quoted as a reliable source in the games industry at the time. So, I mean, while it ultimately disappointed in terms of whether plans changed or whatever, we don't know. But I think, and this is just me surmising, I do think there was an element of truth behind it, especially when I think if you speak to Nathan Gargas, he has a screenshot of Sega Europe's website from I think it's 2001/2, where Shenmue 3's got an announcement on it.
Interesting. I don't believe I've seen that, or if I have, I've forgotten. That'd be interesting to see.
I'm just interested to see. And Adam's a nice bloke. I've sold him some Shenmue gear over the years and bought bits off of him. I'm sure you have, haven't you, James?
Well, he
Back the
backed the
magazine.
magazine,
Yeah,
so yeah. And I've had a little chat with him, and he's still a big Shenmue fan.
a big Shenmue fan.
And in fact, I think he's a journalist for a website, isn't he? Like
He's still in the business, I think. I'd love to speak to him. I really would.
That'd be a good one. Good little interview, and maybe you can sneak a couple of little bits out of him about this particular claim.
Because I
See what
think
he thought he knew at the time. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I think he gets a bit of a reputation actually for the article, and I know he came out and said at the time he believed everything to be true, and
Yeah,
so
definitely some merit in that, I believe.
yeah, I think there was some merit in it, and what happened behind the scenes we just don't know, but it's. I would love to speak to Adam and get him on the interview series or written or whatever, because I'd really like to know. He may not be able to say very much because he still works in the industry, so he might get shot. But it's certainly something that would pique an interest.
I wonder how long these NDAs last for.
Forever.
Do they? Okay.
I don't know. I imagine there's probably some unwritten rule as well that you don't talk about these sorts of things.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, the thing is now Shenmue 3 has actually been released, so what is there
This
to hide in a way?
this is 16 years ago, for goodness
Yeah.
sake. So
So
yeah. Yeah, that was a doozy. I remember that causing a stir. I remember reading it on the forums thinking, oh, yes, come on, yes. And then it never happened. And we
no.
were all quietly.
We have a lot of those over this timeline where it's like, Shenmue 3, Shenmue 3's coming back kind of thing, and it doesn't actually happen, but we'll get to those ones.
This timeline doesn't have the Shenmue Online announcement in it.
Oh, okay.
So that obviously happened sometime in 2006.
Yeah, you're right, yeah, because I remember that from covering it on the Shenmue magazine, yeah.
Just to add that in there.
So yeah, that happened, and that was another thing where we thought, is it going to be Shenmue 3? And it was Shenmue Online, and fans were kind of a bit disappointed. They're still excited because it's new Shenmue, but we all still wanted Shenmue 3, even back then. So it was like, this isn't kind of what the fans want, but we're happy to support it because an online thing back then, they were kind of a big thing. I think was World of Warcraft already out then? These games and stuff like that were like generating a massive income, and I think Yu Suzuki thought that maybe he could do the same with Shenmue and use that income then to work on the third game. And he even tried it with the little mobile phone series, didn't he? The Shenmue City, Shenmue Guy, which actually I think it was released in Japan. We've got very little information on it though, if it was. And again, that was like another. I think it was just a little bit too early. I believe we've spoken about this before anyway, but it's just a little bit too early. Probably a little bit too early with the online thing. Maybe if he'd waited a couple of years, he could have been a success and generated the income. But ultimately, we are where we are, and we've got Shenmue 3 now. So it is what it is, I suppose. So November 2006. Moving on from that, BBC gaming show Video Gaiden launches a Shenmue 3 appeal, urging fans in some way to display their support for a sequel. So I'm not familiar with this Video Gaiden or Gaiden show, but I looked into it a little bit because Peter mentioned it in his history report. There's actually a YouTube link Peter had that showed the segment from the episode. And I believe it was just like no longer than a minute per episode of fans displaying support, and they had like some sort of like like one of those goal kind of like a meter kind of thing, and it was building up over time. Every time they check back in on the meter to see where the I don't know where the support was, but it didn't seem like it actually did anything.
No, I mean I sod it. Appreciate the effort. To be fair, especially with the BBC getting behind it.
Nice to see people mentioning Shenmue, in any particular thing?
We jump years a little bit now because obviously we're sort of getting into the time period where things would start to get a bit sparse, I suppose. So we go from November 2006 to July 2007, where it's surmised that Sega has quietly cancelled Shenmue Online due to sort of various issues around developers and everything, and all sorts of bits and pieces going in between. And the preview footage from the game is actually repurposed by Ali Novin, who's the Shenmue ambassador that's on social media at the moment.
Okay,
And
interesting. Didn't realize that was his trailer.
and
Fan-made trailer.
yeah, he made it into a fan trailer for Shenmue 3, got over 1 million hits on YouTube when it was re-uploaded. So I think some people thought it was real, to be fair to them.
So that is yes, that's that awesome footage, the
Yeah, like,
CG footage
real
of
damn good trailer.
Yeah, it's a shame. I know Shenmue Online wouldn't have looked like any of this in the trailer, but what we were getting from this CG trailer, is it spoilers for the future of the series? No one
No.
knows really. There's crazy stuff going on in that trailer.
Yeah, that was interesting. And then we're jumping into June 2008. So again, about a year on, Sega state that Shenmue 3 is definitely one of the most requested fanboy games, but has no plans to release it.
Fanboy games, okay?
Yeah, cheeky buggers. Cheeky buggers. And then you've got the Shenmue MySpace campaign. I do remember this actually launched a project asking for fans to create display posters requesting Shenmue 3 so that photos can be sent to Sega. I do believe those photos actually made it to Sega.
Right, God, that's a blast from the past, isn't it? MySpace.
Yeah, bloody! I had a MySpace page as well.
Did you?
Yeah, and when I was gigging in bands, we used to have a MySpace page back in the day.
Yeah, well, it feels like that was more like centered around musicians and
It
stuff.
was,
So
it was very good.
interesting, a Shenmue version, Shenmue MySpace. And then after that, August 2008, we got a petition for Shenmue 3, which approaches 55,000 signatures, eventually going on to reach over 66,000 before the hosting website is actually closed down. So 66,000, I mean...
That's the Kickstarter number.
Yeah, basically, isn't it? So I wonder, it's exactly the same people,
Possibly.
the same people who clicked on the petition.
I signed it. I remember signing it.
Yeah, I reckon I would have done it as well back in the day. I think everyone would have. So is that an accurate figure then, really? Can petitions actually be used accurately to gauge the demand for something? 66,000 fans. Yeah, funny.
And then you've got, I remember this one, November 2008, mass mailing organised by the Shenmue MySpace campaign sees fans sending letters and toy capsules to Sega headquarters in Japan, urging a Shenmue 3 release. And do you know what? In terms of novel ideas, this was bloody brilliant, wasn't it? Come on. Really, really
Crazy.
good. I loved it. And
but they're just empty toy capsules.
Yeah.
I know that the picture below that's got empty toy capsule
great
plastic coating things. It's a fun way of, just turning up to work that morning and there's a shit ton of toy capsules on the doorstep.
There was a lot of them as well. I don't remember the number.
Seeing a picture or something. Yeah,
man, that was
crazy.
I remember that.
So March 2009, Shenmue MySpace campaign. So it looks like this MySpace campaign was like the 500k Team U kind of campaign of those days.
Busy as heck, wasn't it? Do you know what?
It looks like
reading this back, I didn't realise how busy they were actually. Fair play to you.
They really did a good push towards trying to rekindle the series, and this is 2009. So I mean, it's been 7 or 8 years. So I mean, it's still a long time. So they launched a Shenmue in Blossom project, inviting fans to plant cherry blossom trees in honor of Shenmue on their own country's Arbor Day. Some great ideas, really, for trying to hit a headline or something that's like, Shenmue fans are going for this game and they've all planted a cherry blossom tree in honor. Do you know what I mean? It's these good headline material there, really, to spark interest in the series again.
Yeah, there is. I'm being a bit naughty. I'm having a look at MySpace and.
Is it still live, MySpace?
MySpace still exists, but I don't quite know. I have to go on Wayback Machine and have a proper look at it and see who put this page together. But
yeah, I do believe they had a bit of they tried to rebrand MySpace, didn't they, a few years back? So it might have wiped a lot of the old stuff.
It still exists, but yeah, it's they were certainly very, very busy back in the day, it seems. And then we have a sort of a 9-month jump to January 2010. The Shenmue fans page tries to blanket spamming approach promoting a blitz of Facebook groups and Sega's official pages with the pleas for the company to continue the series.
Okay. So what was the Shenmue fans page then?
I don't know. I don't remember it.
Shenmue fans. Okay, if you look at because on the right side of this timeline, there's like a list of fan sites, which is really interesting, and when these fan sites were actually first released. And for 2008, sort of next to where you're reading them, and there is one for Shenmue fans, so
Let's
it
have a
looked like it
look.
was a website.
Oh, it
Oh, it's a
still
Facebook
exists.
group.
It's a Facebook group, and it still exists. Ah, okay.
20,000 people follow this.
It's quite a.
It's pretty good, actually. Oh, and there's still. Notice, scroll down a little bit. There's something about the Shenmue anime, so it's
Yeah, it's fairly current. Oh, fair, yeah, cool, nice one.
cool.
Very good. I didn't even realise it was still running that
No, I
well.
didn't touch them on.
That sounds really arrogant of me. Apologies.
Well, yeah, well, same here, but I just kind of, you kind of go where you go, don't you? I
Yeah.
know you're on the 500k. I don't even go on the 500k Facebook group, and it's not because I don't want to. It's just, I'm on the forums. I'm on Twitter most of the time. It's you kind of pick your poison, don't you? But
You do a bit. And then January 2010 again, Sega tells Famitsu that that resurrecting Shenmue 3 is doubtful, but they'd like to make it so someone else pays for it. Ironic.
okay,
Very
the
ironic.
speech of Sega back in these days is a bit out of character, isn't it?
I just think we were probably getting on their nerves a little bit. But do you know
Who
what?
would they even assume would pay for Shenmue?
Well, I
Because
don't
it's not
know.
like it is now, is it? Where you've got these teams kind of taking on old licenses and old games, and Sega are open to it. This is like 2010, where it's unheard of, really.
So it was an article. They've got a link to Destructoid here,
Hmm.
and it's very brief. I will say that. And they basically said that they'd happily do it if they'd trade it for exclusivity, basically. So if anybody
It's
at
one
the
of
time,
the. I bet it's just like a quote. Some guy representative of Sega has just said,
yeah,
on the spot, he's probably said, we were all getting a lot of people requesting it, but it's too expensive. And then he probably made a joke, we'd do it if someone else paid for it. And then that's the headline. Then it's joke turns into this clickbait headline thing. That's probably more likely what it was.
yeah,
So February 2010 now, moving on a little bit into we've already kicked into the 2010s. Sumo Digital includes Shenmue protagonist Ryo Hazuki as a playable character in Sonic and All-Stars Racing, and says it would love to work on Shenmue 3 if Sega was to ask. So that's interesting. That is the in there. That is like what companies are doing these
yeah,
days. Say with Stricter Rage, Emu, or whatever. These companies that are involved with bringing back. Was it Emu? Who else am I thinking of?
yeah. It was Dot Move who did Streets of Rage. Yes.
Blizzard Cube, yeah. Monster World, Wonder Boy, whatever, and Alex Kidd is the
That's
most
Kid.
recent one, yeah. So, I mean, back in those days, we didn't really get those kind of things, or else maybe Sumo Digital could have taken on the Shenmue series, I guess. I don't know.
Well, he said he wanted to do it.
Hmm,
Is it Steve Lysett was the man at
possibly.
Sumo? I have to. Let me pull the
They probably
article
would
up.
have a bloody good job of it, to be honest, as well, because Sumo Digital games back then were high quality, weren't they?
Yeah, Steve Lysett. I knew I
Hmm.
had that name in my head, and yeah, I remember that, and it was quite a bit. Um, I don't know if it wasn't this one because they put Rio in a later game. It's probably on the timeline, but they had the Shen 3 bloody nameplate,
Yeah,
didn't
cheeky,
they?
wasn't it? There, yeah.
Cheeky buggers,
That was
and
the transformed, and that was a DLC as well.
yeah,
That
yeah, it
was
was, wasn't it?
PC DLC or something. Yeah.
Oh, that was a big one. I'm going to go sort of group these two together again. So November 2010 is Sega repeats it has no plans for the Shenmue franchise.
Okay.
Okay. And then December 2010, Yu Suzuki's new studio, WiseNet, launches Shenmue City, a social game for the Japanese mobile market, hoping its success will eventually allow him to provide the remainder of the Shenmue story that fans have requested. The game was, however, closed down after a year with planned browser versions for PCs cancelled. I just don't think it caught on.
It was too early. Wasn't it? You've got to think of mobile
Mm,
phones back then. I don't even know what I had back in 2010. Was it like a Sony Ericsson? It
yeah, I had
wouldn't have
something
been a
like that.
very enjoyable. It wouldn't have been a Shenmue fulfilling feeling anyway at the
No,
time. .jav or whatever they were.
I will say this: if anybody's ever played it, who's listening and can sort of provide some sort of feedback on it, I'd be interested to know. Just because we never got it in the West, but
I'd love for someone to still have it on the phone and it works, or they can, even if it doesn't work, if it was like an online only thing, there's enough data and files there that they've still got installed that they can get something out of it. Do you know what I mean? It'd be cool if that was semi-discovered. It must be on. I wonder. Maybe it isn't. Maybe everyone's phone's broken or deleted. But I do feel like it must be on someone's phone still in Japan.
it's got to be somewhere in a basement or in a box.
Yeah. So that moves on to March 2011, where Yu Suzuki receives a Pioneer Award at the Game Developers Choice Awards, presented by former Sega colleague Mark Cerny. So even back in 2011, it looks like they had a very good relationship, Yu Suzuki and Mark Cerny.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark Cerny's a bit deceiving, really, because he still looks fairly young, doesn't he? But he's been in the business for, I think, since the Mega Drive days, really.
He worked with Yu Suzuki on various titles. I want to know what his bloody secret is.
Because he still looks about 40, in his 40s to me. When he did that GDC thing with Thingy, he looked...
Yeah, I mean, Mark Cerny now is at the top of his field.
Yeah.
He is system architect for the PlayStation, and it's crazy actually see how far he's come. And I'm sure Yu Suzuki, actually, knowing how humble a man he is, be very proud of him.
Yeah,
actually,
definitely, and vice versa. I'd assume they kind of work together to get Shenmue 3 off the ground, and the fact that you've got a 15-year now, 18-year plus game rekindled, you've got to appreciate that as well in the gaming industry. It's such an achievement.
You have, I think, and yeah, crazy, isn't it, that Mark Cerny's been around as long as he has. But there we are.
So, I don't recall this award, by the way.
No, I don't remember it. But fair play. Again, it's just showing how
he must have a few bloody trophies in his cabinet now.
Big trophy wall, maybe.
Yeah.
So we go into sort of June 2011. That Sega, sort of repeating the rhetoric that's been going on for a long time now, assures fans that requests for Shenmue 3 are taken very seriously indeed, while reiterating it has no plans to grant them. Mm-hmm. Says it all, really.
Who keeps? I mean, why did they keep bringing it back up all the time? Were they getting that hammered by requests for Shenmue 3?
I think they were.
Because it's like every year they've got to say that they're not thingy, but that in itself is like, well, why aren't you? If every year you've got to tell us that you've got no plans.
I think they were, and this sort of leads into sort of the rest of the year, which I'll quickly do. Is September 2011. Suzuki's involvement with Sega was reduced to a consultancy role, sort of basically put on retirement, which that's probably a view to express another time what I think of that. November 2011 is it Yu Suzuki appears at the Toulouse Game Show to discuss Shenmue with an audience of fans. Taken aback by the rapturous standing ovation, he answers questions about the series and reaffirms his desire for the opportunity to make Shenmue 3. So he never gave up. And
even in these years,
even in these dry years with Sega writing it off, he never gave up. And in November that year, the current version of the Shenmue 500k Facebook group launched under new management. I remember that because the old one got taken over by all sorts of spammers and everything else and basically destroyed the page. So I remember that new page launching, in fact. But that was it was interesting.
Okay, so January 2012 now, inspired by a recent interview with French fan site Shenmue Master at the Toulouse Game Show. The Team U project is founded with the aim of educating gamers on the distinction between Sega's unwillingness to publish Shenmue 3 and Suzuki's own desire to continue the series for its fans. So this is the birth of Team U, basically, in January 2012, where, this timeline is actually hosted at teamu.net, and it's the kind of the start of the new resurgence of fans pressing for Shenmue 3 again.
Definitely, it's I don't know. It's like it's the start. The first space on a sort of a game board, isn't it? It's like, right, okay, we're going to have this then. That's the way I put it.
And in the same month, fans complete a French translation of Shenmue 2.
Yeah.
So good for the French fan base out there.
Fair play. So I'd imagine that was a massive undertaking with all the text and everything that's in that game. My God.
Yeah.
Fair play to you. February 2012. Wow. I would encourage anybody, because the tweet still exists here, to go and have a look at this tweet. Sega sets the tone on how to handle the new feedback for Shenmue over the next 3 years. And there's a piece on TeamU's Facebook page, the link still works, talking about why Shenmue 3 is not your average video game sequel. And Sega, just a one-line sentence, said yes, because sequels imply it was ever made. And it's really harsh.
So here's the thing about Shenmue 3, it's not your average video game sequel. Yes, because sequels implies that it was made.
And Sega just really cutting. Really
I
cutting.
wonder who was in charge of the Twitter account back then. It was it just shows that they must have been pressured, and they had a lot of, it's that kind of thing where it's become an annoyance because there's probably that many people saying like, "Where's Shenmue 3? What's happening?" And they're just kind of sick of it, and it's kind of like an angry sort of shut up already kind of remark, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, when you think about it? But this then sort of goes into probably one of the biggest milestones in this timeline, barring Shenmue 3 and some other bits, is March 2012. The first tweetathon is held on March the 3rd, 2012, building on partnerships with Shenmue UK and the 500K, inviting fans to converge on Twitter for the day around the hashtag Give You the Shenmue license, expressing that if Sega is not committed to the future of the franchise, then the company may as well give up the rights to someone who is. And I think that's partly a sort of comeback on the previous.
Yeah, like a retaliation. Yeah, and
retaliation. It is. It is. And
it actually, just that simple reply from Sega there potentially could have sparked,
yeah,
the drive, to determination to get the series back.
I think it did. And do you know something? We look back at the tweetathon now, and it is probably arguably one of the biggest influences in getting Shenmue 3 outside. I don't want to disparage the group, the work that any other communities do. Let me be honest here. But
the thing is, man, all of the groups banded together.
We did. I know the Dojo
towards that, so it's like it's not just a specific fan base that's directing. Everyone got involved, so it was like a big joint collaboration to show them that Shenmue 3 does need to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll be honest, I was skeptical at first, but I joined in, as like a lot of other people did, and obviously it bore the fruit is there for everybody to see that we got Shenmue 3 and we got the Shenmue re-releases rather on the modern platforms, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And it's funny actually, sort of feeding into that sort of tweetathon kicking off is Sega had to respond to it because it caused widespread hysteria that some interviews picked up, that obviously it created a wave on social media. Some gaming websites ran news articles fueling speculation and advertising revenue, as I think James Hamill's put in here, with the supposed leak that the HD remake's been completed for over a year, despite that being dismissed by Sega. Either way, right, this was a line in the sand, wasn't it? This was, all right, you're not going to do it, so we'll find someone who will.
Yeah.
And it also showed the desire to get the game made from a very vocal, and still vocal to this day, group of fans.
I'd be interested to see actually how many people were involved in, say, the first tweetathon compared to the figures now.
James would probably know. Knowing him, he'd probably know. Wow, looking back at that, obviously the impact's there for everybody to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the start of a real change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so April 2012, Cedric Biscay's Shibuya International company, didn't realise it had been around that long either. A company built around business links between France and Japan, and which helped organise Suzuki's appearance at the Toulouse Game Show the previous November, launches Shibuya Productions. Okay, so it's like a separate company, subsidiary, specialising in the production of video games and animations. So that's cool. That started in 2012. That's nice. So Cedric's been doing that for nearly 10 years now.
Yeah, he has, and I know he mentioned it in his interview to me that he met Yu Suzuki years before they really started getting things off the ground, which it's quite nice actually. They've been
He's
in
like
touch.
A fan himself,
yeah, he is. He's a big fan, Cedric, and he is a Shenmue fan at heart, and I think he's grateful that he's been able to get Shenmue 3 off the ground, and hopefully Shenmue 4 or even 5 down the line. But we shall see on that front. if we sort of move into May 2012, Steve Lysett, head of Sumo Digital, expresses his desire in an interview with the UK's official Xbox magazine to see Yu Suzuki put Shenmue 3 on Kickstarter. So that was the first sort of mention of it.
Yeah.
Back then, and Cedric Biscay tells the Shenmue Master Fan site that Yu Suzuki is aware of the crowdfunding operations, but Sega will not considering this option and won't release the Shenmue franchise without compensation. So that was interesting. So I do wonder if negotiations had potentially happened at that point, or something was going on potentially. It's interesting.
Well, it is interesting they're mentioning it, back in those times, and that is ultimately what happened. So.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. It's June 2012, fans complete a Spanish translation of Shenmue, so, they never give up putting these translations together. It's nice to see. In July, same year, Yu Suzuki receives an award from the ACMI Games Masters exhibition in Australia. Again, I don't recall the actual event, but it's nice to see Yu Suzuki picking up all these awards for his game industry accolades. I'll just do the next one because there's a couple of short ones. So August 2012, on the day of the 5th monthly tweetathon, OneUp.com publishes an article about the campaign, approaching various friends for comment, one of whom, camouflage producer and recently successful crowdfunder of Republic, Ryan Payton, espouses the virtues of crowdfunding for Shenmue 3, noting somebody's got to mobilize this rabid community. They will help make the game a reality. And some months later, Payton approaches Suzuki with this idea and begins selling him on the concept of the Kickstarter. Meanwhile, UK magazine Games TM also lends its support to the campaign, along with comedian Matt Walker. You see again, Matt Walker?
I have no idea, but I'll have a look. Oh, he's verified on Twitter.
He looks familiar, but I'm not sure. Is he from a show of some sort? Oh, the Nighttime Show. Okay. Where's that gone? So the snowballing publicity leads to a significant boost in participation for the tweetathon going forward.
Very good. So yeah.
So it's just building the elements to what actually led to becoming the Kickstarter by the looks of it. Payton and Cedric getting involved, and
Ryan talked about this I think it was in the first interview he did with me. And Ryan's been heavily involved in Shenmue for a number of years, and he's a key part of getting this going and potentially going forward. He said that he literally emailed Mark Cerny and said, "I want to meet Yu Suzuki." It's the short version of events, but listen to my part 1 interview if you want to sort of get a little bit of the story behind it. But that was the first sort of real selling of the Kickstarter, if you like, which obviously transpired, and then away we go. I'll group these next two together. So we've got September 2012, a fan recreates Ryo Hazuki's bedroom using CryEngine 3.
Okay.
And I think the link is still live. It is. October 2012, GBR Game Bytes Radio begins supporting Tweetathon each month with a 24-hour playlist of Shenmue tunes streaming throughout the event.
That's nice.
Which is interesting. And then comedian Imran Yusuf, and I think he's still quite active. Yeah, he is.
He's the very guy active. Like Sega Europe streams and stuff, into
he does.
Sega and stuff, so that's good, yeah.
It joins the campaign, later compiling video clips of his pilgrimage to Shenmue locations in Japan to promote the hashtag and appearing on the Sega Nerds podcast.
Cool.
So there we go. Yeah, people are sort of slowly being swept up by this at this point, aren't they?
I probably listened to that episode as well, actually, back in the day, because
I've probably did, actually.
Been listening to the Sega Nerds show, at that point until they turned it into Megavision's good podcast to listen to. January 2013, Shenmue Dojo gets involved in the tweetathon for the first time. So yeah, that's interesting. What was that? It's like 6 months after it started, sort of.
Yeah, around 6 months.
Yeah. We got involved. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we weren't making the decisions back then, but we got involved and hopefully brought our own sort of community and whatever into the mix. And March 2013, there's a few here. So Yu Suzuki appears at the Monaco Anime Game Show, promoted by Shibuya International. Reports from fans and attendants help us to clear up numerous cases of mistranslation and misreporting of the onstage Q&A. Most notable amongst the genuine news that did emerge from the event is Suzuki being unaware of any plans by Sega to re-release Shenmue 1 and 2. So what was the particular mix-up then?
I don't know. I don't remember it. Maybe there was just some random translations that went wrong, and
saying that it was being released, and
yeah, quite possibly. And I
he
bet
basically
someone,
saying that he wasn't aware of it. Yeah.
yeah, someone probably ran away with it. But there you go.
No doubt. Yep. And in his second interview with Shenmue Master, not published until July, Suzuki states that by obtaining the Shenmue license from Sega, he would be able to use existing Shenmue 3 materials that are already stored in Sega's vaults. That's interesting in itself, really, isn't it? That they must have had a little bit of work done on Shenmue 3, or
Something was done, wasn't it?
depends what it means by materials. I suppose it could be like, those books he's got of the character art and that sort of stuff. It could just be that for all we know.
Music and everything
But
else, yeah.
yeah, you never know. They could have worked a little bit more on the Guilin. We saw those screenshots of some stuff that never actually appeared in Shenmue 2. The Rio's in a temple with a guy in a green, white beard, that temple master sort of looking guy. So they might have worked a little bit past what we got. Could be what he's referring to. Having barely unpacked his bags after the trip to Mags. What's Mags?
No idea.
I've heard of Mags Fest. Could be that.
Might be it.
Suzuki jets off to San Francisco for the Game Developers Conference. Whilst there, a photograph taken with former Sega colleague and architect of the PlayStation 4, Mark Cerny, which we spoke about, creates a stir when GDC's general manager claims they are talking strategy for Shenmue 3, declining requests to confirm whether she was joking. Mag's promoter and future Shenmue 3 co-producer Cedric Biscay dismisses the tweet as a simple publicity shot for the GDC, reiterating the sentiment later in an interview with Shenmue Master. Did you watch the GDC event live, man?
Not that year.
Oh, this is a different year, is it? This isn't
is the year before. I believe my understanding of this was they talked about him coming to do GDC the following year.
Right, okay.
So
just again laying the groundworks for
the
future. And also at GDC, indie developer and former Gamastra, what's that word?
Yeah.
Gamastra, something
Gamastra, yeah.
Senior editor Brandon Sheffield speaks with Suzuki about Kickstarter and then asks fans to help improve the viability of this option. Despite relative lack of exposure, within 24 hours, campaign followers respond in their hundreds. So, I mean, reading these little pieces of history from these sort of years, it shows that they must have been planning this Kickstarter back now. It's in Yu Suzuki's thoughts. He's like, can we gauge interest for, maybe he wasn't sold on the idea. And I think Ryan even said it took him a lot to get sold on the idea. And obviously these little things helped him to decide that it was, a good, viable option.
Yeah, and it's all the seeds, isn't it, being planted here, and it's obviously you see how it all ends, but seeing this back, you think it's funny, isn't it? It's all little breadcrumbs in a trail going forward. It's nostalgic, actually. I think going back, looking at this. So going into this April 2013, 1 month after the Sweetathon's first anniversary, the event is continuing to grow. Makes it its first use of Thunderclap to simultaneously release a batch of tweets preloaded by fans leading up to the deadline. This is later replaced by a custom auto tweet tool on the new website coded by David Brown of Mooncalf Studios, who is also working on a little 2D fan game. I can't remember the name of it now. But if David hears this, chuck it in the comments or drop us a message. And I can't remember it, and I've seen it.
Sounds
and
interesting.
I feel really bad. I feel really bad for that because I should know it. Critical comments on a Sega fan site prompted a detailed defense of the hashtag "Give You the Shenmue license" and the aims of the campaign, which is then retweeted by the fan site. Go and read what team you said at that point. I'm not going to mention names of the podcasts or anything of the people that mentioned it. Just go and read it because I think it's unfair on people at the time, because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, because I think things have moved on since then, shall we say.
Okay, fair enough. Let's keep the ball moving then. So May 2013, Shenmue Dojo holds a 70-man battle contest assisted by Team U inviting fans to film themselves completing this climactic section of the first game in the fastest time to win an exclusive edition Ryo Hazuki statue supplied by First for Figures. That's crazy that was
Bloody hell.
2013, because I won that. Believe it or not.
Oh, bloody hell, well done.
Yeah, so I don't know, has it got the actual video linking from that?
I'm going to have a look.
That link is just about the competition, but yeah, I remember filming multiple takes, keep getting a faster time, and I forget actually what time I got in the end. I mean, these people have smashed it since. You got
it here. 3 minutes, 49 seconds. 3 minutes, 49 seconds, and so you did it pretty damn quick. You won it by a distance, actually.
I did in the end, yeah. I mean, I don't know if many people actually got involved that I was expecting. I mean, I took it really serious because it was like £250 statue.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's pretty cool. You can go watch that video of me. I'm basically just spamming flying swingy kick thing, whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah.
Running and thingy. And I got a few comments, actually. I don't know if it's still showing in the YouTube comments. People saying, like, you know, it's not a very pretty run, but I replied, you know, it was just what I did to get the fastest time, which is all you needed to do.
Doesn't have to be pretty to be effective.
Yeah. Electro House music star Kavinsky participates in the tweetathon after seeing Yu Suzuki photographed with his album Outrun, named after obviously Yu Suzuki's arcade classic. I do remember this, actually, this guy. His album artwork posing in front of Ferraris and whatnot. And obviously named his album Outrun. Shenmue villain Landy tops a poll of Sega characters to be made into a statue by First Figures after pre-orders for the high-end Ryo Hazuki statue sell out. And both figures are incredible, really, especially the mirror design-based exclusive versions.
Yeah, they're a lot of money now.
They are now, yeah. But, you know, back then they were quite reasonable, really.
Yeah.
I mean, coming back, probably it still felt expensive for inflation and that sort of stuff, but reasonable to what the prices are for First for Figures statues now, anyway. And finally, in that same month, voice actor Corey Marshall dispels rumours of new studio work on Shenmue 3, stemming purely from a change to his Facebook profile. I wonder if that is the time. Could be around this time, because this feels more recent. But remember, he was, I think he took a photo in front of, like,
a Sega sign, yes.
Sega sign or something, and yeah, that could be what this is referring to, or we could see this crop up later, but I do tend to recall something like this anyway.
Quality. Then I'll group the next sort of few together, because September 2013 is an interesting one. So June 2013, you've got the Virtua Fighter composer and Streets of Rage sound programmer Takayuki Nakamura tweets his support of the campaign and begins adding regular mention in his newsletter.
It's cool seeing these people kind of like jump on board with it. Like every month that goes by, you're getting more people involved, and it's cool to see famous people in that sort of stuff get involved as well, that have got a big following.
Yeah, they do, and I think it really starting to gather momentum here. Bearing in mind we're 2 years out from the announcement itself, the momentum's shifting. You can feel it actually in the way this is put together. July 2013, Corey offers signed photos to participants in the tweetathon. I do remember that. I didn't get one, but I do remember it. Mm-hmm. August 2013, Jordan Mechner, the creator of Prince of Persia, lends his support to the campaign.
Awesome.
So again, it's another big name. And then that same month, members of the international Shenmue 500k community spat out the campaign hashtag, give you the Shenmue license in a photo collage. And I know they did several of these over the years. I wasn't in that one, but I've done a few since.
Right. I may have been involved in one or two in recent years. I don't know. I can't remember. Like I say, I wasn't really part of the 500k community, so I've seen a few that you've been in, though.
Yeah, I've done a few.
I've seen your picture. Okay, let's take a short break now and play a piece of music from Shenmue 2. This is the theme of Fangmei, actually, but it's called A Lovely Girl. And welcome back again as we keep moving on through this timeline. So you just listened to Shenmue 2's Shenmue 2 song there called A Lovely Girl. Again, that was, I believe, the theme of Fang Mei. And a lovely piece there. A lovely girl. September 2013, the campaign begins targeting Sony's Building the List survey run by GeoCourse's third-party production team in search of requests for titles to bring to PlayStation platforms. Yeah, that's quite significant that we'll get to, and I assume later when we get to building this listing. Do we know what the actual list was in the end? Like all the games, obviously Shenmue topped it, but what else was on that list? Do we know?
I know Yakuza 5 benefited from it for a Western release because of that as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot behind that, actually, that building the list. I remember it when it got launched.
Cool. Following several rounds of voting, spreading over months, Shenmue was crowned the best game of all time in a mammoth poll held by leading German magazine M Games. Okay, that M Games, that is, they did an actual Shenmue 3 cover. I think I've actually got that, if you remember that one.
Yes, I do.
Shenmue magazine.
Remember it.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, nice to see.
So we go into October 2013. Sega's CS research and development producer Yuzuki Okanari claims that their next lineup of HD re-releases will depend on your voices, so please continue to support us. When approached by fans on Twitter, he clarifies that although he'd like to play more Shenmue, requests should be directed to Sega West, the most common addressee during the 20 tweetathons thus far. That's interesting, actually, that he's saying go to Sega West, because obviously Sega Europe had a massive stake in the re-releases getting released.
Yeah, and well, it seemed like the majority of the fan base, I guess, was from the West, the tweetathon and all these sort of things. I don't really know what Japanese fan communities there were out there back then, but it just felt like it was mostly the West that was really striving towards getting Shenmue back from the grave, really.
And then sort of going into November that year, overlapping the tweetathon, gamers raised money for the Sick Kids charity by playing Shenmue 1 and 2 on Twitch for 25 straight hours. Good
I wonder if they completed both games in that time.
You can speedrun 2 in a few hours, 2 and a bit hours, can't you? I don't know about 1. I can't remember what the record is, but it's a damn sight longer because I don't think you've got the cheeses in it. Like,
I'm sure they probably would have played it properly though.
Yeah, and then in November that year, Sony's Adam Boyes acknowledges Shenmue is one of the most requested games in their ongoing #building the list survey, prompting much speculation. Meanwhile, Shenmue dominates a separate survey by the UK's official PlayStation magazine on most wanted franchises to appear on PS4. Although an unannounced deadline of only a few hours prevents this from being reflected in the magazine itself. So yeah, like that got announced and the fans just hammered it. And then again, it's just sort of another string to the bow, isn't it?
When did the PS4 actually release?
It was that year. I think it was
2013.
November. Yeah, it was November that year. I'm sure it was.
I was going to say, well, obviously it is that long ago, but it doesn't, it still feels quite new to me, the PS4.
I know.
That's just how fast time's going. December 2013, answering a tweet, Microsoft's Phil Spencer makes his first public comments on the prospect of Shenmue 3 on Xbox One. I like Shenmue as well, but it's a Sega IP. Microsoft Studios doesn't have much pull at Sega. I'll recommend to our third-party team. So I don't know what the reaction was to him saying that. Was it like people thinking like, oh, that's a positive sound?
It had history, didn't it? Because it was on the original Xbox, so there was something there. Obviously,
it felt like a better fit, didn't it, at the time? I know it doesn't so much now, but back then it was like
and
Xbox or nothing, wasn't it?
It's ironic because I think I do as well. I focus on the fact that obviously Phil Spencer later came out and said that they were focused on their first party titles and weren't interested in Shenmue 3. Because I know that they approached Microsoft with the concept of the idea and they got no joy out of it. So that was interesting.
Things could have been much different.
Yeah, well, yeah, very different. Who knows?
So the same month, still December 2013, the campaign replaces its old hashtag, give you the Shenmue license, with the newly announced hashtag Save Shenmue. That's interesting. That's where that Save Shenmue kind of came from, which is probably the more well-known out of the two now, I'd say, hashtag-wise.
Definitely.
And again, the same month, Ryo Hazuki is revealed as DLC for Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, following success in the character poll endorsed by Sumo Digital a year prior. Fans send the developers a photo collage thanking them for their persistence.
Yeah,
That's nice to see.
I remember that.
Good stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
that's where they got the Shenmue 3 number plate.
I'm just looking at the timeline before we sort of go into 2014, and you can see that things are accelerating. The campaign, the fan community groups is accelerating massively.
Things are happening.
Things are happening, and I don't want to sort of jinx anything, but it feels like we're at the start of something like this for Shenmue 4.
It's easy to say that as well when you can look back and see these things that happened.
Be wrong. I could
at the time. It still felt like you were such a long way away from anything happening.
I could be wrong. So I'll do January together, I think. So January 2014, a fan-made smartphone app, Shenmue cassette player, is released for Android. Very nice.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
With another photo collage, the Shenmue 500K reaches out to Sony and attracts industry and media attention. They've got the photo here, I think.
Or is this a different one?
I didn't do this one. I think I did one later on.
It says, thank you, Sony, for listening to us. Please.
Hashtag save Shenmue.
Save Shenmue.
Brilliant. Yeah. Rio DLC for Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed is released for PC, with the protagonist also includes an unlockable character on iOS and Android. UK's largest video game retail chain Games voices support for the campaign.
Okay, I wonder if that was like the main game or...
Let's have a gander. Yeah,
it is.
The
crazy.
main game digital website, Twitter page. Amazing quality. And then the first attempt is made to get Shenmue's soundtrack voted into the Classic FM Hall of Fame against claims from an influential source of withheld support that is not worth trying as it will never happen. Well, it did. So, to you.
It did. I remember that, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Some of this stuff, it feels... Well, I know it is closer to now, but it feels a lot more recent, actually, when you're reading some of this stuff. Like, I can remember going on the Classic FM website and tuning in to listen to Shenmue's theme and that sort of stuff. I can remember actually doing that. It's cool seeing that, it's 7 years ago now. Mental.
It is.
So February 2014, Team U Twibbon. What's a Twibbon?
I have no idea.
Keeps loading Facebook on that. Okay, maybe it's must have been something Twitter were doing at the time.
Yeah, I can't remember.
A Team U Twibbon is introduced to help Twitter and Facebook users raise awareness of the campaign in their profile pictures. Ooh, okay, maybe it was just like, I was thinking maybe they changed all their avatars to have
possibly, or I had like something or something at the bottom of it, like people are doing now with various different bits and pieces. Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah. Phil Spencer speaks against the idea of funding Shenmue 3 for Xbox One, as Microsoft doesn't own the IP, so that's what we've kind of just mentioned. Yeah. That was where that occurred. That was in February 2014. Same month, Shenmue 3 captures 47% of all votes to lead an Xbox One magazine poll for games most wanted on Xbox One. A fan-made screensaver is released for Windows, emulating the Shenmue loading screen and including a built-in tweetathon reminder on the 3rd of each month. That's pretty cool. Cool functionality. And finally, issues surrounding Shenmue-related trademarks spark a flurry of misleading reports. So what's that? Is that like... Oh, I'm not logged in on Facebook, so maybe you can see that.
They were saying that the trademark for Shenmue was cancelled and then renewed. And
is that like website domains and that sort of stuff?
And it's very interesting. I won't go into it now because it's quite long.
Yeah.
But go into the timeline and click the link for the Team U Facebook post. It's still there.
Cool.
And have a look at it because it's quite interesting. So we go into March 2014. Fan-made browser game Excite QTT, QuickTime Typing, is launched online.
It's interesting. All these things start kicking off around about now, isn't it? People are starting to get the Shenmue buzz again, even prior to anything happening. It's just it must have been quite an exciting time with comments from companies and sort of stuff. And I suppose this is when social media started kicking off properly.
Yeah, it was. And I think you can see the acceleration in the campaign. Team U is interviewed by the crew behind the Geek podcast. This is the big one, actually. Yu Suzuki attends the Games Developers Conference, GDC 2014, to present a Shenmue postmortem and seek partnerships with Shenmue 3, including secret talks with Sony. He also states that he's researching Kickstarter as a method of funding the game. So this is the acceleration now. We're getting into like, it looks like if he's researching Kickstarter, he's got the license.
I don't actually remember him actually saying that at the show, because that's quite a strong telltale sort of thing. He's looking into
I wonder if it
Kickstarter.
was an interview or something at the time.
Yeah.
But we know he had talks with Mark Cerny there, because that was where I think this really kicked into gear.
Did you watch the show live?
I watched
Do you
it
know?
afterwards. I can't remember why I didn't watch it live at the time, but I certainly watched it back.
I was like around a friend's house, and he had, I don't know if I took my PC or he just had two PCs. I remember he was playing a game or something to the right of me, and I just sat there and just watched this. It was like unmissable, really. Just, I think there must have been talk on the forums like he's going to announce Shenmue 3 or we're going to see something. You know what I mean? I think back then, anything like this would have been like, why? It seems strange that he's doing this now. It's like he's got to do something, and he kind of actually revealed a little bit too much, possibly in terms of the future of the series, story-wise. That's where we got the chapter tiles, and I know there's been a lot of fan theories and whatnot, looking at the tiles,
Yeah,
what's to come in the game. And
it was quite big.
Interesting.
Quite big, wasn't it? That I think they were the content of that conference and things we hadn't seen before. I think it set everyone into sort of analytical mode. What's to come, and
Theorizing.
yeah.
Definitely check this out if you haven't seen this particular GDC press conference, Shenmue Postmortem. It's a really good one.
The next bit is that WiseNet reveals a new browser-based Virtua Fighter spin-off, and Suzuki continues to debate Kickstarter for Shenmue 3. So it sort of feeds into what we just said. Phil Spencer, recently promoted by Microsoft ahead of Xbox, further acknowledges Shenmue as the most requested game for the platform. So yeah, that sums that up quite nicely.
Good stuff. April 2014 now, so yeah, literally the following month. Spencer follows up by using the hashtag #SaveShenmue hashtag on Twitter.
Bloody hell.
That's interesting.
That caused a stir.
So who did he at there? If you look at the actual tweet, it's at Shenmue, but then there's like a big underscore thing.
I don't know.
That was.
I
That's
don't
strange.
know. It's maybe
the hashtag Save Shenmue is strong.
Wow. I mean, that's 7. That's 7 years old now.
So I bet that had people salivating
I bet
at the time. Sony's Adam Boyes remarks on the continued frequency of the Shenmue requests on Twitter. We got a fan remix of Shenmue's theme is used to raise money for a charity battling the effects of children's cancer. It's good that you see, people using Shenmue for good things as well, like that. Edge magazine runs a feature on Team U and the positive behaviour of Shenmue fans campaigning for a sequel. That's cool. And rumours continue over Shenmue 3 being as close to being announced as it has ever been over the past decade, according to a reporter following a small private audience with Yu Suzuki at GDC in March. And finally, from that month, Sony's Gio Corsi comments at PAX East on the relentless tweeting of Shenmue fans since the beginning of his Building the List survey. So, I mean, I think we had every right going into that E3 in the following year, to really believe something was going on here. If you really see all these things that are set in motion, it's crazy, isn't it?
It sort of feeds in actually to the next few months, which I'll group together. So May 2014, Phil Spencer encourages gamers to lobby for the return of their favourite games from the original Xbox. Fans waste no time in reminding him which console was required to play Shenmue 2 in North America. Oh man. Okay. I do feel sorry for Xbox owners actually a little bit that 3 isn't on there. I get why. I get the exclusivity deal, etc., but I think I forgot, looking at this, how many Xbox fans were also campaigning for Shenmue, and yeah.
I wonder what the percentage of people that haven't played it because it isn't on Xbox is.
I don't know. I don't think it'd be that high.
No, I think games these days are happy to dip in other consoles and PC and stuff, I suppose.
I suppose there could be 50,000, 100,000 sales there for all we know that they haven't got, but that's by the by a little bit now. But there we go. June 2014, Team U gets a discreet message to Yu Suzuki via Ali Novin, encouraging the view that if neither private investment nor crowdfunding is shaping up to be wholly workable for Shenmue 3 on its own, and both methods could be used to offset each other, with any risk-adverse investors possibly agreeing to support the project on the condition that measurable demand for the game is proven by fans pledging a minimum target amount. Well, that's exactly what happened in the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because obviously Sony came in with it, and then Deep Silver came on, probably off the back of the Kickstarter, in fact. We had E3 that month. Another E3 goes with no Shenmue 3 announcement, but Yu Suzuki remains active, and reassuring words are offered by Sony's Adam Boyes, while fans continue to petition Microsoft through an official Xbox poll.
Right. It was probably just a little bit too early, wasn't it, that E3 then?
Yeah, I think from GDC to there, it's probably like, yeah, we're going to do it, but we're not ready yet, sort of thing. Yu Suzuki is presented with a Legend Award at Game Lab Barcelona, where he has the chance to mingle with Sony Worldwide Studios president Shuei Yoshida and discuss crowdfunded game development with two of its most high-profile advocates, Tim Schafer, Broken Age, Kenji Inafune, Mighty Number 9. Well, there's a bit of Mighty Number 9 was an interesting one, but I'll leave that there.
That was before Shenmue 3, wasn't it? Mighty
It
number
was,
9.
yeah, it
So,
was.
yeah.
Amidst proceedings, the internet goes nuts over photos showing a Shenmue 3 style on a screen behind Suzuki before delayed translations reveal it to be nothing serious. That's so Shenmue fans, isn't it?
Yeah, but, looking back, it's what could it have been a real thing? And it was like part of a meeting they had where they were talking about it and someone snapped a sneaky picture and
You never know, do you?
You never know, yeah.
And then July 2014, voice actress Lisa Wilkerson offers signed photos to participants in a tweetathon, much like Corey had done, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool to see. August 2014, Team U's founder appears on the Chipped podcast to promote the campaign. Nokon Kid, a graphic designer from South Korea, begins releasing videos of his homemade HD recreation of Shenmue's environments, dropping jaws around the world. And obviously, he ended up becoming part of the Shenmue 3 team because of those videos, basically, what he was able to create in Unreal.
He's still there, as far as I understand
Still there. Crazy. One of several detailed efforts by fans to recreate Shenmue locations within Minecraft is released for download.
I remember that.
And following a long delay after voting, Empire lists Shenmue as the greatest video game of all time, jumping from 7th place from a previous ranking of 42nd.
That's a big jump.
Oh, so it was, so it went from 42nd place to the 7th place. I mean, it's high up on everyone's list, really.
Interesting. Yeah, it's obviously kicking up. So I'll do September 2014. Fans complete English, Spanish, and German translations of the Watch Shenmue demo. Fair play.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I think Switch was involved in the English one, at least.
Yeah, I would imagine he would have been. Insert Coin Clothing offers discount on their official Ryo Hazuki replica jacket to participants in the tweetathon. I do remember that.
Nice. This
is interesting, this next one. Sega of Japan receives a deluge of requests for Shenmue during its promotion on Facebook of the Tokyo Game Show. In an interview from the event, but not published until November, Yu Suzuki tries to take the heat off of Sega. Interesting.
So what did he actually do then?
Let me pull it up and let's have a quick gander at it.
I bet he was saying, I bet at that point the ball was in motion then, so he was trying to stick up for Sega. Probably they granted him the license at that point.
Yeah, it's pretty much what you're saying. Actually, I'm just reading it now. He said that Sega will let him make the game if he can source the funding for it. And in his words, Sega is not a problem at all when it comes to Shenmue. So going back a few years where they weren't going to release the license, they've all of a sudden, by the looks of it, gone, go on, you can do it. If we'll give you the license, there's probably a fee involved, of course. But we'll give you a license to if you can get it funded.
I bet many business meetings with Yu Suzuki and Cedric maybe, and those sort of people, maybe Adam Boyes and Mark Cerny involved. You never know. So, October 2014, Corey Marshall and other performers restate their support for the hashtag Save Shenmue campaign. Reiterating previous advice, Team U continues to urge fans to avoid unofficial crowdfunding schemes for Shenmue 3. So was people creating their own?
Yeah, I think people were trying to sort of create their own bits and pieces to get things going. And also I think some of it was probably a bit dodgy anyway.
Yeah, it's not good. Scott Rode, who is PlayStation Software Product Development Head for Sony Worldwide Studios America, I don't know if he still is, but he was back then, draws international media coverage by acknowledging the campaign's persistence.
Yeah, that was I imagine that was probably a big deal. Very interesting. So going to November 2014, Team U interviews Nocon Kid about his fan-made Shenmue HD project. Almost 15 years after Shenmue's release, tweets from fan gamer of game trailers Michael Huber, who I've had the pleasure of interviewing. Brilliant interview, and he's a good man as well. I got on really well with him. And other passionate supporters are collating a small snapshot of the latest tweetathon. And actually, Michael Huber, part of the Let's Get Shenmue 4 tweetathon, he does retweet and tweet most months actually these days.
Massive fan,
which is awesome for him to see.
And obviously, if you don't know who he is, he's the guy that he probably had the most classic reaction to the E3 event. I'm sure we'll get to eventually.
We will. November again, a documentary is announced later to be titled A Gamer's Journey, The Definitive History of Shenmue.
Oh.
The project received publicity from IGN while supporting the campaign, so there we go.
So, was that actually a Kickstarter was made before the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter?
No, I think Adam was trying to get it off the ground at some point.
Just announced it,
Yeah, and then not even the IGN convention in Dubai is safe from the campaign to #save Shenmue.
Very good. December 2014 now. On the 20th anniversary of PlayStation, only one game appears on every wish list for Christmas. Wonder which one that is. Sony succeeds in bringing Yakuza 5 to the West following its popularity in the Building the List survey, so that's like what you mentioned. Leaving fans to wonder if fellow frontrunner Shenmue 3 will be next. I mean, yeah, you've got to imagine at the time if it was top of the list. Retro Magazine promotes the campaign in a feature listing franchises that need a sequel. Just loads of people getting involved, aren't there? Russian news outlet Game Mag promotes the campaign while covering a fan-made version of Lucky Hit.
There we go. Interesting.
Very good, very good.
It's all kicking.
It's all creeping towards the big moment.
It is a bit. I'm going to group January to March together. I put there's aeroplanes going over my house, so hopefully it doesn't pick it up.
I can't hear them. I think you're okay.
Good. Okay, so January 2015, organisers of the ACMI Games Masters exhibition featuring Yu Suzuki titles promote the tweetathon. A second attempt is made to vote Shenmue soundtrack into the Classic FM Hall of Fame.
Okay.
February 2015, campaign passes the 3 years of the monthly tweetathon. Bloody hell.
That's crazy. Flown by.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it's gone quick. Lisa Wilkerson praises the dedication of those campaigning for Shenmue 3, stating, I think that Sega should do this just out of a kind respect for the loyalty of the fans.
Mm-hmm.
And then in March 2015, with Yu Suzuki attending another GDC, a former colleague who worked on Shenmue's dynamic weather system comments of the importance of fans campaigning to save Shenmue. This is interesting. A Toonami poll asking for people's favourite video games is dominated by Shenmue, earning it a mention on their pre-flight show. Now, bear in mind that Crunchyroll, Time Warner own Toonami, and Jason DeMarco is head of Toonami, and he got the Shenmue anime off the ground. So I wonder...
I bet it was his poll.
I wonder if he was involved in that. It's just an interesting link to make. Again, it's funny how these puzzle pieces come together now, isn't it? It really is. Gamers begin voting in their thousands in support of a proposal to make Lego versions of classic Sega arcade machines and Yu Suzuki himself. I know it didn't make the total in the end, but again, it was really cool to see the concepts.
It got close, I think, did it?
Didn't get too far away. It was pretty close. And then finally, for March that year, is Suzuki speaks at a seminar in Tokyo about the role of game creators.
April 2015, a fan mod by Esperal allowing versions of Ryo Hazuki and Landy to finally battle in Dead or Alive 5 receives media coverage from around the world. And I'll jump straight into May 2015 now.
Yeah.
So Tweetathon participants continue to influence their fellow gamers into showing solidarity for the cause. Fan-made smartphone game Excite QTA QuickTime app is released for Android. Oh, okay. I feel like I kind of remember that one, actually. I can picture like a some sort of thing flashing up like a QuickTime event thing on my phone, possibly. Yet another Shenmue hoax claims a joint announcement by Sega and Square Enix concerning a Shenmue 1-3 collection is imminent. After the games media and blogosphere obligingly whips fans into an expectant frenzy, the culprit confesses to forging the leaked image. Okay. There's been so much of that over the years,
I know.
It's mental. Yu Suzuki resumes activity on his long dormant Twitter account. See,
And
that's it's
interesting.
interesting. Kind of like it tells you a little bit of something. I think that's what we were talking about on the forums at the time, and why we were getting a little bit excited for E3 just approaching. Before obviously we got that forklift tweet, which I think is in the next section, is it?
It is. So June 2015. Oh, this is etched in our memory. It's probably a little bit poetic that we were recording this on 6 years to the day.
That's nice, actually. I didn't think of that, but we just picked this day kind of randomly. We're both free, and it's nice.
I'll get to that in a minute. So Data Discs offered a limited edition copy of its Shenmue soundtrack LP to participants in the tweetathon.
Cool.
Zuki-san begins honing in on saved Shenmue tweets, so he starts retweeting them and acknowledging them.
Mental.
That was interesting. Fans collaborate for a photo collage wishing Yu Suzuki a happy 57th birthday.
Okay.
Fair play. Suzuki, this is the big one. Suzuki arrives at E3 and tweets a picture of a forklift, sending fans into a frenzy of speculation and almost giving Adam Boyd a nervous breakdown. And I must confess, having spoken to Ryan Payton about this, it's not too far from the truth.
No. Well, he was saying that they kind of kicked off a bit about that, didn't they? They were like, Yu Suzuki, what are you doing?
They weren't happy, although Ryan interpreted it the other way.
I think it worked in the end. We needed that, didn't we? It was like, please tune in to E3 kind of thing. It was, something was in the works,
and then
definitely.
This is the one we've all been waiting for. Suzuki-san is introduced by Adam Boyd onto Sony's stage at E3 to a reaction like no other, announces a Kickstarter for Shenmue 3 that crashes the site and reaches $2 million target in record time. Wisenet PlayStation and the main Sony account all tweet the campaign hashtag.
It's crazy.
Now, if you ever want vindication for anything, right there.
And the funny thing is, when I was watching that E3 live, I don't know. I want to say it was timed to perfection. You know, it was like so far into the show, it felt like maybe they were whittling down a little bit. There was like Digital Devolve, a little segment where it was like, I bet a lot of people went to, get a drink or go to the toilet during that section. Not to downplay Digital Devolver, but it was like, I was watching, say the game trailers, Michael Huber stuff, and they were still getting over what's happened previously with Final Fantasy and stuff, and that was playing. It was kind of like a bit of a transition between that and the next big announcement. And just what happened after that was, it's mind blowing. Really thinking back, it still gives me chills and hairs stand on my end watching it back.
Yeah, I look back at it now and I just smile. I look at it and I go, and I'm going to sound like a right a-hole here, but I turn around and I look at it. And everybody's ever said it will never happen.
There you go.
Just
perfect timing.
And anybody who says Shenmue 4 will never happen, we can do it. We did it once, we'll do it again.
Yeah. And in fact, it's a lot easier for it to happen now. Back then, it was like just unreal. It's hard to get your words out how unreal it was. I'd never forget that day.
No, I won't. And it's a day that's only surpassed by my wedding day, quite frankly. And I've said that publicly a few times. So
back up on that.
But then this is, for want of a better expression, it's probably a little bit of a negative spin on it. The gaming media went mental, obviously, because Shenmue 3 had been announced. There was a lot of misinformation around out there. So not just Team U, but all the fan community groups had to band together to fight back against the mountain of misinformation that was there in terms of who was funding it, where the funding was going, etc. And we discussed this in our Kickstarter episode, actually, about the communication here, and that Yu Suzuki had to issue a statement around what the hell was going on with the money. And I look back at that and I think the gaming media just thought, all clicks, thank you. And they ran with it, even though people were actively disproving these articles, they still ran with them. And it's just like, what?
It's because the first one worked, didn't it? So someone did it, tested the water, Yu Suzuki scam was one of them, because Sony's involved. While Sony plumping up the money, the multi-million-dollar company or whatever, and they could easily fund this themselves. So why are they trying to get people to back it through Kickstarter and that one headline? And then because it was such a success, people having a bit of an outcry, everyone did the same thing for for clicks, didn't they? Really, at the end of the day,
They did.
not good.
So yeah, he issued a statement just to correct some of the hysterical clickbait. Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, and Cedric did say that actually it probably had an impact on the final total, which is a bit of a
they were
shame.
kind of a little bit slow to respond, weren't they? Initially, they could have got that out quicker. July 2015, co-producer Cedric Biscay of Shibuya Productions comments on the manufactured drama. I think that the media's desire to create buzz around this issue will strain our campaign by at least 2 million. And I agree with him. I think it probably did. I think they probably would have even got to 10 million without it, that we're touting. I don't have any words for the minority of journalists who seem to sometimes forget their duty to provide information by writing about their interpretations rather than facts.
Thank you very much, Cedric, because that's exactly how everybody felt at the time. And I hope those people are pleased with themselves, quite frankly.
Yeah, because, for something to take this to come back after so long and, to be shit on by the media like that, it's disgraceful, really.
They lost their meme, didn't they? Yeah. They lost their clickbait. Shenmue E3 every year, it's never happening, and it did. And I don't think
to be honest, they lost a lot of respect as well. When you see some of these companies that were making up these headlines and stuff, they lost a lot of respect for us, at least. Corey Marshall has announced his returning to voice Ryo Hazuki in Shenmue 3. It's nice. Just as his Japanese counterpart Masaya Matsukaze will also return. And Yu Suzuki joins the biggest ever #Save Shenmue tweetathon to answer questions from fans. An independently organised fan campaign urges Kickstarter backers to each donate an extra $30 during the event. I can't remember that, actually. Then there was one, they were doing a competition where if you did, I think, $100 or something, you got an entry to win something. So, I got involved with that. I think we were chucking money at this left, right, and centre, weren't we?
Yeah.
WiseNet publicly names Ali Novan as executive Shenmue ambassador, while publishing links to community websites and social media pages, including a photograph of Suzuki-san holding a book prepared by Team U, containing messages posted by fans during a previous tweetathon. Some great stuff we all did to, show our appreciation and whatnot. Sticking in the same month, loads of stuff in this month. The first ever Save Shenmue QTE is announced by Team U and retweeted by Suzuki-san, introducing a new campaign concept requiring fans to converge online at the exact same time for a chance to win 2 names in the credits of Shenmue 3 by spreading useful information about the game. That's nice. Nice little gesture as well. Spanish studio Blitworks, having worked on several ports for the company, urges fans to continue requesting Shenmue HD from SEGA, describing a previous proposal. We thought it would be a good idea to showcase Sonic CD, Jet Set Radio, and Shenmue, working on emulators to SEGA, with the prospect of a commercial release for the console at that time. They showed interest in Sonic CD and Jet Set Radio. So that must have been where they did a release of Jet Set Radio with it was like a gold badge thing. I forgot what it was called, like a history piece thing. Fundraising on Kickstarter comes to a close with a record total of $6,333,295 pledged by 69,320 backers, and Yu Suzuki confirming on Twitch that due to strong demand, a PayPal option will be put in place for those who were unable to back the game through Kickstarter. Industry figures to have personally donated via Kickstarter include Peter Moore, who's now of EA, or he was. I think he's Liverpool manager now or something, or not Liverpool manager, but he's part of Liverpool
CEO
Football Club.
Yeah, there, isn't he? He's part of the directors there now.
And Sony Worldwide Studios boss Shuei Yoshida. So yeah, magnificent total to be honest, and obviously combined with the PayPal, I think we did get to 7 million almost, didn't we? Or yeah, a little bit over possibly.
It was around that figure, yeah.
So a massive achievement anyway, record-breaking achievement. Team U thanks supporters with a video titled #Shenmue Saved. It's nice to have changed the hashtag a little bit there. It's a nice, smart idea. Yu Suzuki issues his own message of thanks to supporters. A speedrun of Shenmue 2 raises money for Medicines Sans Fronteras, and work officially begins on Shenmue 3. There you go, man. It's a big month covered.
Big month there. It's one of the biggest months in the franchise's history.
Okay, we're going to take a little breather now and play another song from Richard Cartlidge. This is 311. Okay, welcome back. That was 311 from Richard Cartlidge, obviously 3 being the fully reactive eyes entertainment. This is just the music that plays in Shenmue 1 at various points throughout the game. So yeah, another great piece from Richard there.
So August 2015, the campaign rebrands itself as #Save Shenmue HD to push for re-releases of Shenmue 1 and 2 on current formats, thus increasing the potential sales of Shenmue 3 and securing the future of the series. And we know how that turned out. The first tweetathon using the new hashtag is utilised to gather questions for an interview with Yu Suzuki. And I think I got a question asked in this actually.
Okay.
I'd have to check. Shenmue 3 tops the poll on game FAQs for most anticipated Kickstarter game. Phil Spencer explains he'd spoken with Yu Suzuki about bringing Shenmue 3 to Xbox One, but did not pursue a deal because he preferred to focus on first-party titles. Cedric Biscay later states that Microsoft woke up a little late and had no arguments that would have made it possible. So if anybody is wondering why it never made it to Xbox, that's probably the reason.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, all the deals signed and delivered, and that was the end of it. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Team U's founder is interviewed by Game TM's magazine along with Yu Suzuki and Cedric Biscay. No Con Kid uses his latest video to promote the hashtag Save Shenmue HD campaign. Gio Corsi reveals that Shenmue was always number 1 in the hashtag building list survey and describes the precautions taken to keep the project under wraps until E3, until Yu Suzuki decided forklift. Also, Yu Suzuki tells the story of hiring a fan he met in a restaurant to work on Shenmue 3. I don't remember that.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm going to quickly... Oh, it's a Facebook link.
Facebook
so have a look at it if you want to... If people want to have a look at it.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, and obviously, if you do look at this timeline, there's photographs and images and stuff that goes along with a lot of these things. So if you're interested in a bit of
nostalgia, it's all there.
Definitely.
And then September 2015, coinciding with the Tokyo Game Show, the long-awaited Slacker backer page opens, allowing fans who missed out on the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter to donate for rewards via PayPal. And then fans also completed Spanish translations of Dreamcast and Xbox version of Shenmue 2. Again, a bloody massive undertaking, so well done there.
Good stuff, man. So we're kind of getting to the last, I'd probably say last third of this timeline.
Yeah.
We've banged out. So October 2015. So during the hashtag Save Shenmue HD tweetathon, Wisenet or YSNet announces the hiring of No Con Kid to apply the skills demonstrated in his homemade Shenmue HD videos to Shenmue 3. Such a nice gesture that, and like you say, he's still working there, so it's great to see. And obviously his skills have probably even surpassed what he was creating back then. And Shenmue 3 is a great representation of that as well. Ryo Hazuki is announced as a character in Namco Bandai's IP crossover game with Sega, Project X Zone 2, which I've got actually. It's a pretty decent game. You have to get quite a ways into it before Ryo pops up, but it's nice to see Ryo Hazuki represented in a different style of game. Team U launches a Shenmue 3 quiz and profile header images to help promote the game's continued crowdfunding across social media. Yet more inaccurate news coverage, this time by a reporter twisting someone else's interview to create rumours of Shenmue 3 on Xbox One against the interviewer's own advice, requires new efforts to clean up confusion amongst misled fans. I'm trying to think, when was it that we found I think it was Jibby that went into some sort of website for Shenmue 3, was it the official website or Deep Silver? And it was Xbox One. That was a bit later, I think.
Yeah, it was much closer to release, and Deep Silver had to make a public announcement to say it wasn't coming.
Yeah, so basically copied and pasted, I think, code from a different game.
Format,
and it was kind of still in there, yeah. Team U's founder is interviewed by Sega Nerds to address the yellow journalism continuing to plague Shenmue 3 since the moment it was announced. Sega Europe marketing director John Rook appears to suggest the company is exploring the possibility of Shenmue 1 and 2 remakes, though paraphrasing of his precise words causes confusion amongst fans and reporters. In the company's first direct voluntary acknowledgement of the series since Shenmue 3's announcement in June, Sega Europe's social media team tweets about playing the original Dreamcast title at Paris Games Week. I wonder if this was Dan Sheridan who was in charge of Sega Europe's social media stuff at the moment.
Possibly, because their tone changed quite a lot.
Yeah. He was, very open actually to fans talking about Shenmue. I had
He
some nice
was.
chats with him, and I actually met him at, I think it was like a PC Gamer conference in London. I dropped down there, and
Oh,
he was
nice.
part of the Sega booth, and I had a word with him. Might get into that in a little bit, but there was a funny thing I did say to him at the time. I was like, can you wink if, say you were doing a Shenmue remake kind of thing, and he kind of like lifted both eyebrows and up and down and like did
Ah,
a funny face at me.
ah.
Just like kind of
Yeah.
hiding the fact. I mean, you could look back now and think like, okay,
He's like, no, yes.
yeah. So questions from Team U and other Shenmue fan sites and community pages are put to Suzuki in an update delivered to Kickstarter backers. Suzuki describes the fans' continued support as one of the most moving experiences of his life.
Wow, that sums that up. I'll crash through the rest of the year of 2015.
Go
So
for it.
we're in November 2015 that Team U launches the winning can raffle, providing Shenmue 3's PayPal backers a chance to win coveted prizes donated by generous fans, along with first figures who offer their new exclusive edition Landy statue to one of the winning ticket holders. And Corey Marshall offers to sign and personalise some items up for grabs. Fair
Yeah,
play.
I think that was the one actually that I got involved in, and because I remember them sending a sticker
Oh,
with a winning
nice.
can that you could
Nice.
stick on an actual can to make it look like a winning can.
That's cool, actually. I like that.
It's a good idea, yeah.
Sony's Gio Corsai and Adam Boyce share a photo taken while catching up with Yu Suzuki and the Shenmue 3 team in Tokyo. Suzuki visits Shanghai for the Chupax Expo to promote Shenmue 3, showcasing new prototype footage and receiving gifts from local fans.
I wonder if that was the event with he was seen on stage with the mirrors someone had made for him.
Possibly. It does sound about right. And
Yeah.
then a Shenmue meetup is organised in the UK by fans, featuring activities such as a real lucky hit board, an exclusive teaser for the documentary A Gamer's Journey, and a live stream with Corey Marshall. I didn't go to this one. I couldn't. I remember it being organised. It was done through the 500k.
Yeah.
But I get the impression it was quite successful. I can't remember the name of the place it was held now. It was in London somewhere.
Very good. It sounds good. Sounds like a good event to have attended.
And yeah, I'd like to have gone, but unfortunately couldn't.
Okay.
December 2015, Shenmue 3 co-producer Cedric Biscay addresses the hashtag Save Shenmue HD campaign and speaks of the importance of releasing Shenmue 1 and 2 in HD before the sequel's release. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
First sets of results of the winning can raffle were announced following the interim deadline at the end of the tweetathon. New Shenmue action figures are announced by Chinese company Worldbox. I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
I remember this, and obviously nothing ever really came about them from that. It was like it was a Chinese company, Worldbox, and that was literally all we got. They just announced they were going to make some figures, and yeah, nothing happened.
As I say, I've never ever seen them on eBay or anywhere.
I'd forgotten about it, but I do remember it at the time because obviously I was, I'm a massive Shenmue collector, so they were on my radar. And nothing ever happened, so I don't know why.
Interesting. I don't know what happened to them. Chinese members of the Shenmue community on Baidu Tieba donate 200 books to a primary school for underprivileged children in Guilin. After
Nice.
two teachers there had personally donated large sums to Shenmue 3 via Kickstarter to draw wider attention to the school and its needs. And that's the Kitchen Brothers that did that.
I was going to say, yeah, two teachers they
I
were
remember
teaching
that.
in Guilin, weren't they?
I had a long conversation with Joe about all of that
Brilliant.
in Monaco, actually. Both of them are really nice blokes, actually. And do some bloody fantastic music as well. A new stretch goal is added, is unlocked for Shenmue 3 by PayPal backers, as the crowdfunding total passes 6.5 million shortly after the deadline is extended till further notice. And to round off the year of 2015, the Dojo's webmaster is interviewed by Retro Gamer magazine.
Lovely, lovely. Was that Zimming then, or?
It must have been.
Yeah, at the time. Cool.
It's Yama, in fact.
Oh, okay, awesome.
There we go.
Good stuff. Okay, let's get into 2016. Let's try and smash through this. So, January. A decision not to add Kickstarter exclusive rewards to those already available on the PayPal's crowdfunding site is misreported by journalists, implying PayPal backers will receive no rewards at all. Stupid, aren't they? So stupid. Once again, it's left to those paying attention to fight against the tide and show other sites how to research a story. I don't know where these journalists get off on it. They just, what do? They just make shit up by the sounds of it, don't they?
Pretty much.
That's not a generalization, by the way. I don't mean all journalists, but these ones that were misreporting at the time, it's like, what is the point?
I know, it seemed very deliberate, didn't it?
Yeah. So TeamU's founder writes on the website of UK's Metro newspaper about the origins of the campaign. A third attempt is made to vote Shenmue's soundtrack into the Classic FM Hall of Fame. So it must have been more recent than
Yeah,
like I
it must
remember,
have
because
been.
I do remember going on the Classic FM Hall of Fame and listening to the music, so
Mm.
it must have been more recently then. Yu Suzuki is officially presented with 2 Guinness World Records for Shenmue 3 being the most funded video game on Kickstarter and the fastest to raise 1 million. Massive achievements.
Yeah,
They're
huge.
actually on the wall in his YSNet office, aren't they? I think.
They are. They're still there to this day.
Smashing.
February and March 2016 are band together. So in
Yep.
February 2016, we had the final set of results in the winning can raffle announced, with tickets received for the contest representing over 2.5k or $2,500 rather spent on the Shenmue 3 PayPal campaign. That's a fantastic achievement.
Yeah.
Yu Suzuki appears at Magic Monaco for a Shenmue 3 conference hosted by David DeVille of Shenmue Master, and unveils new content and footage from the game's ongoing development. Later that day, Shenmue Master records its third interview with Suzuki-san and publishes it the following month. Fans make the most of an official survey from Sega to express demand for Shenmue 1 and 2 HD. That's the end of
Which,
February.
yeah, we had quite a lot of those little surveys. Must have been around this time. I remember filling in
Yeah, there's
quite a
quite a
few.
few. March 2016, fans complete a Brazilian Portuguese translation of what Shenmue. Local
Okay.
fans don't keep going by all means. And here we go. It finally happened. Shenmue soundtrack is finally inducted as the highest new entry into the Classic FM Hall of Fame.
Brilliant. Said they couldn't be done, and it was done.
Again, Shenmue fans just doing what everyone says they can't.
Yeah. I can see a photo of me actually, so I'll do April and May together.
All right.
So April 2016 to mark the 50th consecutive monthly tweetathon, contests are held throughout the day, and a teaser video is revealed to announce an interview with Yu Suzuki secretly held by Team U and the Shenmue Dojo fan side at Magic Monaco. The full video and written report are published the following day. Who was representing Shenmue Dojo at the time then?
I don't know. It might
Yama
be
again, maybe?
Peter, possibly. Was he
Possibly
involved back
Peter.
then?
Maybe he's been the
Been around
majority of
a long
these Magic
time, yeah.
Monicos, as far as I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
The media misconstrues another project update from YSNet, with journalists this time falsely reporting that Shenmue 3's dialogue might be only recorded in one language. The source material instead explains that it's the ability for players in all markets to select between English and Japanese when loading up their copy of the game, and may come down to budgeting later in development. Stupid again. May 2016, responding to a deluge of fan questions about the whereabouts of Shenmue 1 and 2 HD, Sega Europe states the company would love to release these tomorrow and is currently investigating how to make it reality, but cites complications from licensed products that were included in the original games. Most of the game's media reports this as a step in the right direction, with possible cause for concern over the licensing issues, while a minority of reporters exaggerate the story as confirmation of the games being greenlit. So I remember this actually. Dan Sheridan at the time was doing like a Sega Central YouTube series, and he was answering questions about Sega and stuff in general. And I left a comment on one of the previous episodes with my Shenmue sort of question, like what's literally what's happening with Shenmue 1 and 2 HD. And Dan thankfully gave us that particular answer there, which is made it on the timeline, which is nice to see. And that particular picture there of me and Dan together, that was at that PC game show that I was on about. I met him and had a little chat with him. Such a great bloke. Shame actually he left Sega, but he's got like entrepreneurial sort of intentions, and I know he's got his own little company and stuff called Share Media.
Oh, fair play.
And he's doing some of the stuff. I think he's involved in some games and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Which is good to see. He was involved in VR a little bit as well. Great bloke. Luke Crane, head of games at Kickstarter, quashes criticisms of Shenmue 3's use of their platform and Sony's involvement in the project. Gio Corsi and Adam Boyes catch up with Yu Suzuki in Japan, sharing their last photo together before Boyes leaves Sony a few weeks later. That was a shame as well, seeing Adam Boyes leave, because obviously this is before Shenmue 3 is even released, and what he kind of meant to the fans at the time. that announcement on the stage and stuff. And the last little thing in this month is Chinese fans on Baidu Taiba follow up their previous book donation by donating a projector to the remote primary school in Huilin.
Lovely. I'll group June, July, and August together because there's only a few sort of bits here. It slows down actually, sort of into the latter half of 2016. So June 2016, in partnership with Japan Cat Network, Team U launches the Shenmue Heart of Gold campaign to raise funding for shelter animals in Japan, inspired by Rio's compassion for an orphan kitten in the game. Lisa Wilkinson's own rescue cat, Princess Genki, acts as a feline ambassador, with Shenmue 3 music composer Ryuji Oichi and co-producer Shibuya Productions also helping to raise awareness.
Lovely.
Sorry, James?
I was just saying lovely.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of campaigns actually, like raising money that the communities have been involved in. Actually, it's quite cool to see.
Always like different sort of things as well. It's it's not always the same one. It's they
Lots
get
of
involved in the
different
various
ones.
different. Yeah, it's lovely.
July 2016, now known as a Shenmue 3 advisor, Ryan Payton encourages campaigners to continue requesting Shenmue HD from Sega. In August 2016, without prompting, Sega Europe COO Jurgen Post acknowledges that Shenmue has been pretty much at the top of every list of titles that people wanted to see revived. It's a change of tone, isn't it? Massively.
Yeah, just proves that the demands for the game, and it's been everyone's, or a lot of gamers' greatest game of all time. When these lists are compiled, it's it's testament is the word I want to say. Actually, it's testament actually that Shenmue's stood the test of time all these years, and it's still pretty much at the top of everyone's thoughts all the time.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy, isn't it?
September 2016, Jurgen Post speaks in more detail about Shenmue, stating that Sega is looking into remakes of the first two games and that they have the company's full attention, while reiterating his colleague's earlier comments from May about licensing contracts that Sega will need to renegotiate before the games can get greenlit. Obviously, you've got Timex and that sort of stuff in there. Meanwhile, Sega Europe registers several website domain names suggesting an active interest in Shenmue HD remasters. Do you remember that? Actually, they had like a few, didn't they? Like Shenmue HD, Shenmue something else.
I remember that, yeah.
Caused a bit of speculation. In an unofficial poll conducted for Sega's attention during the tweetathon, fans vote overwhelmingly against keeping licensed products in Shenmue HD if negotiating those contracts will prevent the first two games from being released ahead of Shenmue 3. I think fans just wanted the first two games to be released so, players could catch up prior to Shenmue 3 being released,
Yeah.
It just made sense.
Yeah, it did make sense, and luckily it actually happened, because I think you go on social media, you do see new people picking up the series across various platforms. I see a lot of PC gamers picking it up at the moment, oddly.
I think it's just so cheap, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's £6.24 at the moment on Humble. So if you want to pick it up on the cheap, do it, because that's ridiculous for two games as well. Let's not forget it's two games.
Two of the greatest games of all time.
Of course. I'll group October to December together because there's not too much here. So October 2016, 17 years after its release, hidden animation data was discovered by a fan within the playable code of What's Shenmue, matching the victory pose of Virtua Fighter's Akira, formerly the lead character of the game during development. So where he sort of sits down and goes, all right, that bit.
Yeah, Rio does it.
They can trigger it, which is really quite interesting that it's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Cedric Biscay restates the need for Sega to release the new versions of Shenmue 1 and 2 on modern platforms.
Yep.
November 2016, on the 30th anniversary of the start date of Shenmue's story, a live playthrough on Twitch raises money for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Again, Shenmue fans raising money.
Charity. Again. Awesome.
And then December 2016, fan-made mini Shenmue RPG is released for the Saturn platform, playable via an emulator. I never played this,
I didn't play it, but I remember it a little bit.
It's still here, and it's on Titan Game Studios as a video, and I think the links are still there, and it all works.
Looks pretty cool. It's like a 2D isometric, top-down kind of old school looking game. Yeah,
Cool,
it's pretty cool.
actually. And then the last bit for 2016, Chinese fans on Baidu TA but now enhance their previous donation of a project by also donating curtains to the remote primary school in Guilin.
See, even the Chinese fans, it's such a worldwide community, isn't it? It's lovely to see. Right, let's bang out 2017. So we're looking at January here. So Cedric Biscay tweets his own direct plea to Sega to hashtag save Shenmue HD following the first tweetathon of the year. News sites discover the domain names registered by Sega Europe in September 2016. Cedric Biscay urges fans to stay vocal in the quest to hashtag save Shenmue HD. I'll carry on because those are little short ones there.
Yeah.
So February, the proposed LEGO set featuring Yu Suzuki and some of his creations receives the required 10,000 votes to be formally considered. Obviously, we know it didn't actually happen, unfortunately. There was also a rumour citing an unnamed source at Atlas USA claiming that Shenmue 1 and 2 remasters will release in 2017. So I'm not sure what was going on there, but they were a year too early anyway. March, fans use an official Sega Japan survey to highlight interest in the campaign for Shenmue 1 and 2 remasters. There's another survey that we all got involved in.
Yeah.
I'll do April, May, and June, yeah?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, carry on.
Okay. So, April, Cedric Biscay reiterates his desire for Shenmue 1 and 2 remasters to be released by Sega ahead of Shenmue 3. Fans respond to an invitation from Tekken 7 director Katsuhiro Harada with requests for Ryo Hazuki to become a guest character in upcoming DLC, and obviously that never happened, unfortunately.
No.
It's something I'd still like to see, but I'm not sure if Tekken 7 is still getting characters.
I think they've sort of rounded off on Tekken 7 now.
Right. May 2017, Sony's Gio Corsi catches up with Yu Suzuki during a visit to Japan. June 2017, fans vote Shenmue 1 and 2 in 2nd and 6th place, respectively, in a Famitsu magazine action adventure games poll, and fans react warmly to Yu Suzuki's announcement of an extension to Shenmue 3's development period. So yeah, this was at the time where they kind of had a really short release schedule, didn't they? And Kickstarter, I think it said that it was coming out in
December 2017. We all sat there going, there's no way they're doing that.
No way they're going to do that in 2 years, and obviously push the date. And I think he pushed the date a second time. That's probably in this timeline a little bit later, perhaps.
Yeah, he got, I think, was it 3 delays in the end?
Maybe so, yeah. But
delay, it got and then it was delayed again, and then in 2018 it was delayed, and then it was delayed in 2019. They had to come out on that. Because
I think every time they got delayed, they got more like an influx of money from another company like Deep Silver or Epic or something. Or
it's difficult, isn't it? Because I know that the last delay was discovered by accident by someone putting the date on the Steam page, if you remember, which caused a bit of a ruckus on the forums. Right, so August 2017 is a bit of a busy one here. So, Sega Europe's Executive Vice President of Publishing, John Clark, makes familiar comments about Shenmue on new platforms being something they would love to make to happen and are actively pursuing.
John Clark's on.
The Italian branch of IGN recalls a monthly tweetathons that led up to Shenmue 3's shock revival. WiseNet releases a new teaser video to celebrate a publishing deal with Deep Silver, with many interviews at Gamescom allowing Yu Suzuki to address misconceptions about the game's incomplete assets. That was a big one. It had over a million.
Dead Eye stuff?
Yeah, it had 1 million views, that trailer, and it got slated by a lot of people going, "Oh, it's the finished product. Shenmue 3 looks rubbish." And you're going, "Hang on a second. There's been a delay announced for at least a year."
Yeah, see, people, they did that the whole time, though, didn't they? I mean, obviously, going with the Kickstarter and all the Kickstarter updates, you're going to see the development of the game, aren't you? That's what they said they were going to give you. And then every time they were showing you the most recent shots and stuff, people were saying, it looks crap, and it's hard. You can't judge a product until it's actually released.
Well, Shenmue 4, should it happen, I would love them just to go, we're not going to show you anything, and bam, and then 6 months stealth in, and then just hit it really, really hard.
I mean, everyone was hoping that to see something at this E3, but
it's too soon.
I think it'd be awesome if they did it in that style. Like they've been working on it in the background all this time, and maybe next year, next E3, they say Shenmue 4 announced, and then they can say releasing holiday 2022, and everyone would be like, oh my God, that's like 4 months away.
Yeah.
That's that would be amazing. And then, you wouldn't get all this cynical sort of like, oh, look how, the models, they need to do the models better, because they've had the actual development time now to show what the finished product is going to look like. You were just seeing it a couple of years too early. So, of course, it's not going to look perfect.
No.
So, that'd be cool if it happens like that.
At Gamescom, Suzuki also reiterates many times that the desire to see Shenmue 1 and 2 remastered, urging fans requests from Sega.
Yeah.
Amongst the interviews granted by Yu Suzuki at Gamescom, there are 3 conducted by fan sites: Shenmue Dojo, Shenmue 500K, and Shenmue Master. I got a question asked by the 500K at that point, actually.
Brilliant.
It was one of the first questions. I think I asked something along the lines of, now there's the extra sort of funding from Deep Silver, would that then mean the Kickstarter stretch goals would be achieved? And actually some were.
Yeah,
So
well, they gave that list at the end, didn't they, that was updated, and we got a few. We didn't get a few of some of the ones that they said they were going to give us, but we ended up with actually
others,
the majority and more, really, didn't we? It was so they definitely fulfilled on those promises.
Team U interviews co-producer Cedric Biscay, who again stresses the need for Sega to remaster Shenmue 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Voice actor Corey Marshall pays tribute to the teamwork of fans around the world making Shenmue 3 happen. And then Shenmue 1 and 2 both rank highly in a Famitsu poll to name the best video game of all time.
Good stuff. I might just end the year out here. So Corey Marshall in September 2017 encourages Brazilian fans to campaign for HD remasters of Shenmue 1 and 2 with Portuguese subtitles. Interesting. There were more rumours insist on a 2017 release for the Shenmue HD remasters, although it appears to be news to Oliver Comte, who is the head of Deep Silver's French division. And Comte checks in on Shenmue 3's development in Japan, tweeting, "Very impressed by what I see. Clearly the game is going to be great." October the same year, voice actress Liesl Wilkerson, or I'm going to get bloody ripped by Peter for what is it, Liesl? Voice actress Liesl Wilkerson participates in the monthly tweetathon for remasters of Shenmue 1 and 2. And finally, in that month, fans donate to a Japanese animal shelter through the Shenmue Heart of Gold campaign to win a copy of Shenmue 2, specially signed by Yu Suzuki. November, Shenmue 3 co-producer Cedric Biscay visits Yu Suzuki in Japan, and Shenmue's English voice cast reunites to raise funds for victims of 3 successive hurricanes, attracting media coverage in both the US and Japan. And to tail off the end of that year, 2017, December, Yokosuka City's tourism board releases a free Shenmue-themed guide map with the cooperation of Sega, helping fans make the most of any pilgrimage to the first game setting. So that's interesting, because that guide map was even before that they announced the remasters, and obviously they released the guide map again later.
They did, yeah.
To promote
I got a couple of those sat in my cupboard. They're really good little maps, actually, aren't they?
Yeah, really nice. They did a Japanese version and an English version for the English fans, because they knew people were travelling specifically to Japan and Dobuita Street there and whatever to actually see, the that road. So it was a good little campaign, really.
It didn't encourage tourism. It's just, it was one of those things that I think, with people making the pilgrimage and still doing it to this day, it was a good move.
Yeah.
Definitely a good move. So we're now into sort of 2018, the final sort of 4 months of the timeline now, and we start sort of ramping up towards the Shenmue 1 and 2 HD announcement. So in January 2018, fans respond to a question asked by Sega with a deluge of support for Shenmue and the campaign for the remasters of the first 2 games. Comicbook.com, who ran the previous story about the re-releases coming in 2017, revises their previous claims once evident the remasters were not released in 2017 after all. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Chinese fans aren't Baidu Taiba add to their previous donations by donating a further 166 books to the remote primary school in Guilin. That is crazy. That's been going on for so long.
That's amazing. Yeah. For all the stuff that they've done combined, they've awesome stuff there.
And then the final bit for January is members of the Shenmue 500K collaborate for a new collage welcoming publisher Deep Silver to the Shenmue 3 project. And my mug is in that one.
Is it? Is that one?
I did. Yeah, I remember doing that one. I think I was an E in it.
Yeah. you can actually check, like I say, everything. Every one of these points in the timeline's got links to the sources and stuff, so you can check out Matt's mug holding up the E there if you want to.
With hair.
So February 2018, THQ Nordic announces its acquisition of Koch Media, the parent company of Deep Silver, stating that both companies will continue to operate separately with a commitment to delivering on their existing pipelines and no cost-cutting measures planned. Fans rise to the challenge of adding 5,000 pre-registrations to the tally for Sega's new Japanese mobile game, Code Daman, securing a cameo for Shenmue's Ryo Harusuke. I remember that, actually.
I remember that, yeah.
I think I even downloaded it. Actually, I think I did a guide of how to download it for. You had to make like a Japanese account on the App Store.
Yeah.
And you could download it there. I didn't really play it though. Fan site Shenmue Master publishes an exclusive interview with 3 composers of Shenmue's soundtrack, Takenobu Mitsuyoshi, Yuzo Koshiro, and Ryuji Iuchi. And finally, of February 2018, Yu Suzuki attends Magic Monaco for Shenmue 3 conference, sharing new screenshots with the public and an extended version of the Gamescom 2017 teaser video with those in attendance. Whilst there, Suzuki grants several media interviews, plus fan community interviews to Shenmue 500K, Shenmue Forever, Team U, Shenmue Master, and Sega Saturno. Meanwhile, co-producer and Magic promoter Cedric Biscay is also interviewed.
Busy month.
Yeah. We didn't attend that Magic. We did the 2019 one.
Yeah, we did 2019.
Yeah, I've seen photos from that one. It looked equally as brilliant.
2019 was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was a really good. I'd love it if actually they do announce Shenmue 4 and they do go back to Monaco. I'd love to do it again. Again.
I think I will try and go to as many events as they have Shenmue 4 there. I'll try and attend them all because
I will, as long as funding and holiday allows.
But that Magic trip was
so
magic.
Good. So damn good, and we were very blessed actually that there's obviously me, you, Peter, Flagship, who's no longer with the dojo, were there, so we were sort of on the ground doing all the work at the time, and then we had like people like Jibby and Son and everyone back in the UK, smashing out the forums and keeping an eye on things. It was a busy weekend, but it was a bloody good weekend.
It was nice to meet these people as well, and obviously,
yeah,
I actually met James Hamill there as well. Who
I met
obviously
James
he's written
there.
this timeline. So yeah, it's great to meet some of these big names in the Shenmue community.
And I got incredibly drunk.
I think we all did.
But there
Cracking
we go. Last 2 months we've got here, the timeline on the Team U page is March 2018. A new Facebook photo frame was introduced by Team U, allowing fans to easily adorn any picture with the campaign hashtag symbol, which is very similar to what you see across Facebook today anyway.
Yep.
Corey Marshall updates fans directly via Facebook regarding the schedule for Shenmue 3 English voice recording. At that point, he didn't have a schedule. Little did we know that there was going to be a further delay announced at Gamescom 2000. Well, I say delay. It was given a release date, but it was also a delay at the same time at Gamescom 2018. Later, I think it was August that year. It was actual fact the day that Shenmue 1 and 2 released on PlayStation 4, Xbox, and PC. Gamescom was that day. I remember it because I was off work. And then April 2018 is the last big milestone on the timeline. Responding to a request to make Shenmue 2 backward compatible on Xbox One, Microsoft Phil Spencer advises fans to take it up with Sega as the onus is on the publisher. And then Sega delivered. The last point of April 2018 is Sega chief Haruki Satomi, soon to be joined on stage by John Clark, Executive Vice President of Publishing at Sega Europe, announces new enhanced versions of Shenmue 1 and 2 for modern platforms at Sega Fest in Tokyo. Sega Europe, Sega of America, and developer D3T share the news by tweeting the hashtag Shenmue saved, bringing to a close the hashtag Save Shenmue HD campaign.
Wow, that is it, yeah.
And that's it. That is the timeline. I mean, they didn't add to it beyond this. I mean, you'd be talking, if you were making additions, I suppose, you'd talk about Gamescom 2018, TGS 2018, obviously the release of 1 and 2 on modern platforms, Magic Monaco 2019. And then, of course, the subsequent delay and trailers from Gamescom 2019 and E3 2019, and of course Shenmue 3's subsequent release, and then Team U disbanding itself with the purpose served, shall we say? And James Hamill left the community, and I don't think it would be wrong of me to say that he, along with a lot of the other community groups, were instrumental in Shenmue 3 happening. And without that work, I don't think we'd be talking about this today.
No, not at all. And I think it's a nice point to close the actual timeline there by, they at this point we saved Shenmue. We got Shenmue 3 on the way. Is kind of born from this outcry from fans, these campaigns over the years. It's evident in this timeline how much fans got behind the series to get it back into existence, really. And Shenmue 3 came back Kickstarter funded, of course. And today we own Shenmue 3, and you can pop it in your console and play it. You can't fathom the fact that there was 15 years there where we didn't know what was going to happen, if we'd ever see a game again. And I think Shenmue 3's here. We shouldn't take it for granted. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep pushing for Shenmue 4. Shenmue saved, basically. We've got an anime on the way. And I just wanted to read these little tweets they've got at the bottom of the timeline here just to close us out. So Sega tweeted, "You've asked, we've listened, and we're extremely excited to announce that Shenmue 1 and 2 are coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC in one package. Both games will feature Japanese and English voiceovers, the choice of classic or modern controls, and more. Hashtag Shenmue saved." Sega Europe just tweeted hashtag Shenmue saved, and D3T, who obviously worked on the re-releases, said, "Super excited to reveal we've been working on the classic Shenmue franchise with Sega. It's an honor and privilege to deliver these high-profile titles to new platforms and new audiences. Hashtag Shenmue saved." So I think that is such a nice way to kind of end the timeline. We did save Shenmue. Hashtag Shenmue saved.
It's crazy, isn't it? All that time, all that effort, and we got the result that we wanted, and it shouldn't stop now. We save Shenmue, but we need to keep it that way. So on the 4th of every month, hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4. Get on Twitter, get on social media, let Sony, let Microsoft, let whoever the hell need to know about it, that we're not going to stop until we get a Shenmue 4.
Exactly, man. So if you do want to view this timeline that we've gone through every little point on the timeline there, you can head over to teamu.net. Like I say, the dojo now is hosting this website to keep it up for future generations to be able to view this nice little history piece. It'd be a shame if this suddenly just was no longer to be, or you had to use the Wayback Machine to read it. And like I say, there's more stuff on the Teamu actual website here. You can check out some of the other little things that they've got going on there. Like I say, they've got links to all of the fan sites that have ever been produced for Shenmue, which is really cool to see. There's even one on there that I worked on when I was a kid, which is a little bit embarrassing, so I won't tell you which one that is, but that's in the list there. So yeah, man, I don't know if there's anything more else to add to that. This has been a pretty lengthy episode. This might even be the longest one, which I wasn't expecting. I thought we would probably hammer through this, but like I say, it's such a detailed timeline, and there's so many talking points. You might have noticed we kind of picked it up in the second half of the timeline just to get through, because it's such a huge thing. I would really recommend checking this out, or I'll try my best to include a lot of the images and a lot of the sources involved in a lot of these points on the YouTube side of things for this podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, you've probably just seen that over the last 3 hours, some of the images and stuff. It's going to be a big one to edit. I'm dreading it. But yeah, I think it'll be a good episode, that. And we're going to close out with a piece of music just before we leave you for this particular episode, and we'll see you again in another 6 weeks' time, possibly March, I think.
Yeah.
We'll come out with something, I'm sure. If you want to say bye, I'll say bye after.
All right, so everyone take care, and we'll catch you all again soon.
So yeah, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting us, subscribing to the podcast and everything that the dojo puts out. We really appreciate it. So we're going to close out with a piece of music here. This is from Shenmue 3, and it's called Long for Home. Thanks, guys. See you again next time.
Ah, look at the time.